I'm sure I could make a vPub out of me just sitting here in front of you and share my top 10 picks of 10-year-old whiskey, 10 through to number one. We could have some fun chatting about it and things like that. But I'm going to do a wee bit more than that tonight. I'm going to get my top 10 picks out of the way really quite early on in the stream. And then I'm going to move on to uncorking a couple of 10-year-old whiskies that, for one reason or another, over the years of the vPub, have never managed to make an appearance. Not sure why, but that's going to be corrected tonight. Thereafter, we're going to focus a wee bit on new distilleries, specifically those new distilleries that have been around long enough to actually be able to release 10-year-old product. And then we're going to ask why there isn't more from some of the other ones that can do the same thing. Anyway, that'll be a nice discussion too. But of course, then we're going to finish off with a reveal. What we're going to do is share the results of the community. There's a poll been running for the last few days, asking everyone what their top 10 picks are. We put that all together and it spits out a community top 10 as well. And then we'll pitch it against my own personal top 10 and see where any disagreements may lie. That's the fun in 10-year-old whiskey tonight. I hope you're looking forward to it. I am as always. And I'll see you in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the vPub. Welcome to Thursday night. Hope you're all doing very, very well. It's a wee bit warm, so you'll see I'm staying cool with a long drink to kick things off with tonight. I think all of the UK are enjoying particularly balmy temperatures. Well, for Scotland and the UK at least right now. I think we hit 28 degrees here today in Glasgow, which is crazy. But it's quite nice too. It's nice to see all the colours and the blue skies and things. I hope it's not too warm and balmy and sticky for you to enjoy some drams tonight, if it's appropriate. If you're joining us live, raise a wee glass, get yourself comfortable. Is it a 10-year-old? If it is, share what you're drinking in the chat and let us know how you're getting on with it. Would it make your top 10 picks? Tonight, of course, we're focusing on core range bottles. There's lots of kind of special editions. There's lots of independent bottlings and things like that that, of course, are going to be 10 years old as well. But the reason that we're focusing on core range is that, you know, our whiskey community has the luxury of being absolutely global, right? So if we talk about these exercises through the lens of core releases, you know, official bottlings, we're talking about things that we can enjoy simultaneously, that we can enjoy together as a community. Familiar things. I know that through someone's whiskey journey, we tend to take the express lane through the official bottlings quite quickly. And eventually we end up in the cul-de-sac that is single casks and special editions and independent bottlings and all of these things, if we can access them, of course. But sometimes it's nice to revisit the core range stuff and realize how well put together a lot of these things really are, that there are real gems out there that are produced by the distilleries themselves. Really fantastic things. And also to kind of refresh our perspectives and, yeah, maybe just to contrast where we are in our whiskey journey if we are indeed stuck in that independent bottler cul-de-sac like a lot of us end up. Absolutely. So yes, tonight it's a focus on 10-year-old whiskies. It was inspired by the ASHAC question at the end of last week's vPub. When I was looking at the amount of distilleries that could theoretically at some point in 2025, let's say, reach their 10-year anniversary or breach their 10-year anniversary during the year at some point, and theoretically have the ability to potentially put out a 10-year-old release. Would they consider doing such a thing? If they did, would they consider trying to build it towards being a regular core release product? And, you know, how would it fare against the legacy brands out there that have been producing 10-year-old core release whiskies for years and years? That was what started this whole thing. I don't want to just focus on new distilleries and focus on their 10-year-old stuff, because at the end of the day, they're all making single malt Scotch whisky. The whole of tonight is going to be focused on single malt Scotch whisky. They're all doing it, and it doesn't. If we start to separate legacy producers from new producers, there's reasons for that, and context applies, of course. There's reasons to do that, but if you're just talking about 10-year-old malt whiskey, you can compare it regardless of whether it comes from a new producer, a legacy producer, a closed distillery, whatever it may be. You can consider the value proposition, the flavor proposition, and whether or not it would make your own personal top favorite list, whether that be 3, 5, 10, whatever it is. Anyway, that's what we're going to chip through tonight. But before we get into all of that, I'll finish off my long drink. I've got a wee dram poured as well. It's the same whiskey in both, and it is a 10-year-old. But I'll finish off this while it's nice and cool and refreshing still. And if the ice is making noise against the mic, I'll apologise in advance. But welcome, everyone. I hope the weather is lovely where you are. And if you're picking this up on the replay, thank you. And I hope you're enjoying the weather, whatever time of year you're picking this up. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate it. Thank you. Good stuff. Just a wee highball. It's just a Glenmorangie 10. Poured over ice, fairly hefty measure, if I'm honest. I think it was a double. I think if you're going to drown it in a tall mixer, I think you need a good measure of whiskey, especially if it's a 40%er like the Glenmorangie 10. And then just top it off with, in my case, soda water tonight. Michael Wood is in. Good to see you, Michael. He's saying, please say hello to everyone on my behalf. I cannot type fast enough. I know exactly what's that's like, Michael. Even if you've got a keyboard in front of you, it can be tough to keep up and things, switching backwards and forwards between the kind of whatever is being said and whatever's getting talked about in the chat. It's worse on a mobile device, but it's good to have you here regardless, buddy, and I hope that works, that I'm saying hello to everybody on your behalf. Let's see who else we can welcome in. Keith McDonald is celebrating being a member of the Barflies, keeping things ad-free, enjoying his little loyalty badges and his custom channel-themed whiskey emojis, celebrating a support for 28 months. That's brilliant, Keith. Thank you for your support. You and the rest of the Barflies that keep it ad-free. I never need to go to Google for ad revenue, never need to split the Barflies never need to sit through ads. Cheers, Barflies. He's saying hello all, Aquavite. Nice to have you in, buddy. How's your brother? I hope you're keeping well. Pete Ed is here. Of course he is. That's Frank over in the Netherlands. He's saying, evening, barman. Always good to see you behind the bar. Thank you, buddy. It's always good to have you to serve. Can that be such a thing? Nice to have you, big man. Tim Pills is saying, yep, Benromac 10 tonight with soda and ice. Lovely long drink. Nice to see I'm not alone, Tim. I'm actually enjoying it so much that I'm a wee bit... obviously, I can't go up to the kitchen and make myself another mixed drink. I'll stick to the drams after this. But I'm enjoying it, and I'm going to be sad when I finish off, I think. Eric Cunliffe is here. Eric from Canada. Good to see you, Eric. How's Renee? How you doing? He's saying, Agravita, good evening all. Delighted to be here tonight. Eric is usually teaching yoga at this time of the day on a Thursday, so it's nice for him to have a wee pocket of time to join us live. Good to have you, buddy. Ryan Sutherland from 8 Doors Distillery. Way up there on the top. Ryan, I always need to mention that you're from 8 Doors Distillery, do I? I think you're okay with it, right? Good to see you, big guy. Saying evening, everyone, and hello, Roy. Nice to have you in, Ryan. I hope you're keeping well, and I hope the hot, sticky, fine weather has made it all the way up to the top of the country too. Overland Drams is in. That's our pal Chuck from Colorado. He's saying, what a fun idea, 10 times 10s. Well, we'll see how it plays out tonight, buddy. I hope it is fun. It's been fun for me putting it together. And Island Hopper Stuart is in. Good to see you, Stuart. How are you keeping, my friend? Enjoying Speyburn 10 in the sweltering motor caravan high up in mid-Wales. I imagine that you've got all the windows open to get some breezes going through, right? That's no aircon, I guess, in your caravan. And it would be quite sticky. But listen, a wee Speyburn 10 to help keep the heat off. Not bad. Billy Bennett 75. Might be the first time I've welcomed you, Billy. Nice to have you in. He's saying hello, everyone at Aquavite. Watching from a ferry north in Norway, so no whiskey in the glass tonight. Looking forward to this since I love a good 10-year-old whiskey. Nice to welcome you, Billy. That's wild that you're on a fairway north in Norway. I wonder if the weather has made it up there. You're still sitting, despite it being very, very late at night, in broad daylight up there, aren't you? Julian Rickman is saying, evening, Roy. Evening, Barflies. Adding a 10 in the glass. And very nice it is too. Good to have you in, Julian. Good to have you hanging out with us tonight. A wee drams just come in from a pal, David Hong, as well. Thank you so much, David. No comment. Fairly typical for you, my friend. Just like to drop in a wee virtual dram so I can raise a glass and welcome you in. Good to have you, David. Cheers, big guy. David Larenko, David from Portugal. Actually saw David hanging out with Seb K and Bruno in Portugal. They were getting together for a wee Barflies kind of mini event out there, and I got another invite to go and join them. It's going to happen. It has to happen. Oi, Roy is saying another great topic. Can't wait for the results and to see where this conversation goes. It's 28 degrees in my room at this time of night. Turn off the AC and save the money for whiskey. Lol. Brilliant, David. Wonderful to have you here. And it was 28 degrees here today as well. I'm glad to see it's cooled off a wee bit now. Jim is in. Good Jim. What's that? Jim Morse. 93 degrees Fahrenheit, of course, and sunny here, but under a car in our garage, so no tall drinks until I finish. Tidy up the work, get some Schwarfiga to clean up those hands, and get in and get yourself a wee reward dram poured. Rick Johnson is here from San Francisco. Good to see you, buddy. Saying good afternoon from San Francisco, Roy. And when it comes to whiskey talk, your lovely Barflies are my core range. Oh, I like it. I see what you did there. Good to have you, Rick. Good to have your positivity too. And Jimmy Legg himself is here. He's saying, can you guess which 10-year-old I'm having? I bet you can. I can. And I think the elephant in the room is, if you remind me, Jimmy, I think we might kick things off talking about with the 10-year-old that's in your glass tonight. Everyone just saying ahoy, malt mates. Good to see you, Chris. I hope you're keeping well. Jimmy Jazz is here. Good to see you. He's saying good evening. A Talisker 10 and lager, 32 degrees C here. So he's converted it. Jimmy's in the northeast of the US, and he's converted it into metric so that we can understand just how sticky it is for him. A Talisker 10 and a lager sounds perfect. The colder the better, right? Andrew Pierce is here. Good to see you, Andy. Hope you're keeping well, buddy. And Stevie O is saying, nice to be back after 2 weeks in Greece, but I've missed my vPub fix. Greetings to all. We've missed you too, Stevie, and it's nice to have you back, my friend. But it's nice to have a wee break, a wee holiday in the sunshine as well. We've got quite a few vPubs to go. I think, what have we got? We've got another one in June, and there's probably going to be, I think the dates work out that it's going to be 2 or 3 in July. Then we stop for the summer break. And then we'll be back again late in August. So we've still got a few vPubs left before the summer break behind the bar here. Looking forward to that. There's always a kind of summer, I don't want to call it a slump, but just a kind of a, if anybody's ever created content or done anything around whiskey, you'll notice it's a very seasonal thing. And we have these kind of summertime things where people just take a break. They switch to their beers or their wine or cooler drinks or something. And then they come back into it as summer starts to fade into autumn, and they come back into whiskey again. The exception this year, interestingly, is Dramface. Dramface is going great guns. It's going really, really well, and I think that's because it's a new thing, and people are still discovering the magic resource that Dramface is for whiskey. Dramface.com for any of you that are interested for reading or listening. So we're not seeing much of a slump there this year, but we've seen it in the past, and we're certainly seeing it across YouTube and other places. I think it's a good thing, generally speaking. And I have to say that one of the best decisions my wife made on my behalf many years ago, she said, if you're going to do this thing and if you're going to make a regular event of it and you're going to try and stick to it, she said, take a summer break. And I said, yeah, that's a good idea. And I've done it every year. I don't completely switch off from whiskey during those weeks. I do still enjoy a whiskey if I'm in the mood, but the amount of whiskey that I consume is at a fraction of what it normally is when I'm going to club nights and doing vPubs and doing tastings and reviews and blah, 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 all of these things. And it really does, for me, help me add a bit of contrast back in again, recharge, it just works. I think it's good for headspace as well. If I go away for a few weeks in the summer and I miss this thing, I can't wait to get back again. Warner, One Glass Man is in. Cheers, everyone, from Miami with Electric 10 in the glass. Perfect on theme, Warner. Good to see you and good to have you in. My pal Stefan Novak in as well. Good to see you, Stefan. I hope you're keeping well. Danny Hebington is Speyside, evening or all evening Aquavite. Starting with the Springbank 10 since I managed to get a backup bottle yesterday. Yeah, the Springbank has dropped recently. I haven't been able to pick up any this year myself, but I don't feel like I need it. I've got a heel of a Springbank 10 and a backup bottle too, so I'd be being greedy, wouldn't I? Sugar Kitty saying, favourite summer dram is the Lemony Fresh Glencadam 10, one that you're going to discover tonight is very close to my heart as well. Jeff. So hopefully we're not giving any spoilers there. Pedro from Brazil is saying, good to see you, buddy. Saying, evening, Barflies and Aquaviti. Nice to have you in. And Cesare, the Fly Mucha, is saying, Roy, good 10-year-old Linkwood 100 proof in the glass. So he's gone for an indie, but he's on theme with a 10-year-old in the glass tonight. I'm going to raise a wee glass tonight. Helen is celebrating being a member, Helen and Andy, for 62 months. Birthday wishes, Eric Cunliffe. Hi from Machrihanish. Brilliant. Okay, so we've got a birthday to celebrate first. We'll do that first. And then the Machrihanish thing we'll come to in a second. Eric Cunliffe, who I've already mentioned, is in tonight. Sometimes, in the past, I've had a wee message from Renee to mention it's Eric's birthday. But I don't make a note of these things. I'm glad you're here to celebrate it live, buddy. Eric Cunliffe, my pal, you star. Many happy returns. I hope it's a good one, fella. Cheers to you. And thank you, Helen, for reminding me. But also I want to raise a wee glass for Helen and Andy. They've been under a lot of stress recently and they've made a huge life decision. They've moved from the south of England, close to the south of England, south-ish, southeast, up to the west coast of the Kintyre Peninsula specifically. They've moved up to Scotland, and tonight is the first night. They don't even have broadband installed in their house yet. They're tuning in using their 5G network down on the peninsula there. Hope you've got enough data to keep up with the vPub, guys. It's nice to have you in, even if only the chat keeps up. And maybe you can pick up these good wishes on the replay, Helen and Andy. But really, I wish you the very, very best for all your future adventures and your parties and your developments and your everything that could potentially happen in a positive way for you. I wish it to you. I also hope that you make it through the Scottish summer and make it through the even more challenging Scottish West Coast winter as well. That'll be the real challenge for you. Listen, we're all rooting for you. We hope it's a fantastic thing. Very best of luck and a happy new house. Cheers, guys. Dave Barnes is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 37 months. And Cesare the Fly Mucha is celebrating being a member for 25 months, saying Roy Aquaviti, good 10-year-old Linkwood. I picked that one up since Cesare didn't. I'm so sorry. And Tim Pills has bought me a dram as well to say, cheers, Roy. Whenever I meet the other Barflies, I will be buying them drams too. You're a superstar, Tim. It's nice to have you in here, buddy. It's nice to have you buying me a dram, whether it's virtual or when we can raise a glass in real life, my friend. Cheers to you all. Welcome, everyone. I do not have the same whiskey in the glass as Jimmy Legg. No one has commented the obvious comment. No one has been negative about this theme tonight. Nobody's said, what's the point? Just give it to Springbank. Celebrate their 10-year-old and let's us just all shut up and go home. But it's much, much more than that. The elephant in the room is that there is a truth out there, and it doesn't matter what metric you use to measure it, whether you use, individual preferences in a small group around a table or a bigger room like a whiskey tasting. It doesn't matter if you go out into the community. If you get enough people who have been into whiskey for long enough time and ask them, sometimes it's just a broad best whiskey question, but specifically if you ask them what's your best entry level 10 or 12-year-old, you're always going to get people saying Springbank 10 and Springbank 12 cast strength. That's going to be the answer to all. It's just the way that Scotch whisky finds itself in right now. What I want to ask everyone in the community that finds some way to spin that into something negative, which is super frustrating for me, God knows how it must feel for Springbank. Why can the rest of the industry not have a wee look, a wee glance to what Springbank are doing and take some guidance? Not everyone is going to be able to make Springbank. Not everybody's going to be able to make or even want to make that type of thing. And there are lots and lots of fantastic new spirits out there, fantastic legacy spirits out there as well, to be honest, that do share a lot of traits, attitudes, ethos, ethics with the guys down in Campbelltown. And we see it coming through in the drinking experience and the products that we buy from them. I'm talking about producers such as Glencadam, that's already been mentioned, Arran, Ardnamurchan, people that are looking not to copy in any way copy Springbank, but just to adopt some of the things that Springbank are just, all they're interested in is just making the best traditional Scotch whisky that they can possibly make. Jimmy Legg has bought me a dram to say your 10-year-old Loch Lomond gives their Springer a run for his money. You're very, very nice, Jimmy. I know that you enjoy that bottle, and I'm glad that you're enjoying that along with it as well. But Jimmy's enjoying his Springbank 10 tonight, and there's at some point tonight through the lists that we share, I don't doubt for a second you're going to see Springbank at number 1. However, now that everyone's in, let's just start talking about these lists. Eric's bought me a generous dram from Canada. He's saying, thanks, Roy and Helen. Feeling spoiled. I get to have a vPub on my birthday, hosting a tasting later tonight. My 10-year-old in the glass is a 35-year-old 2014 Brora sample. So it's a 35-year-old 2014. I think that's the 49.9% one, isn't it? Much love to you and all the barflies. Slancha, he's saying. Happy birthday, big guy. That's a fantastic wee dram to share it with. Your 10-year-old. So how we're going to run this tonight is I'm going to share my list, my top 10 list with you. We'll go through that fairly quickly. I'm going to fill up this shelf behind me with my 10 bottles. It'll be difficult to see over there, whatever, but that's where I'm going to put the bottles. I'm going to shift from here over to there. After that, we'll uncork a couple of bottles that's well known and familiar to everybody, but for some reason, whether I can justify it or not tonight, they've not made it onto a vPub in the past. One of them, however, is absolutely brand new. And there is a poll running live in the live chat right now. If you're watching this in the replay, sorry, it's already closed, of course. But there's a poll in the live chat right now that's just going to, I'm just asking you, which ones do you want me to be opening tonight? Which ones would you like me? I'm only going to pick 1 or 2 of this list. So a couple of them will be left until another future event. And then what we'll do after we do that is we'll move on to the new distilleries, the distilleries that have come along in the 21st century, and the ones that have been around long enough in order to theoretically be able to put together a 10-year-old product. And we'll look at the ones that have done that already, but also consider the ones that have not and ask, why is that? And talk a wee bit about why that might not be of interest to them. Then we'll move on to you guys. We'll move on to the community poll. And I'm going to specifically look at the entries in your top 10 when I share the community top 10 that don't, for whatever reason, appear in my top 10. And there's at least one of them that's going to give me an excuse to uncork another bottle. That's how we're going to run it tonight. I hope you're looking forward to it. I certainly am. 10-year-old whiskey is often considered entry-level whiskey. And that's a kind of strange thing. There was a time in the past when malt whiskey or blended whiskey, it didn't matter what it was. Scotch whiskey didn't need to necessarily have a big age statement. It certainly didn't need to have a double-digit age statement. But as time went on, 8 years old, 10 years old became like the benchmark. Then as stocks became deeper and, you know, this kind of cyclical kind of peaks and troughs that whiskey seems to go through, these cycles, when the stocks are deeper, you can start to see the age statements increasing. And that's certainly what happened after the trough that happened in the 1980s. And, you know, we saw Macallan launching with a low age statement on there. The 10-year-old was a staple for years. But in the early 80s, I think 1984 or something, they brought out an 18-year-old, and you can see the age statements building from there. All the other Edrington stable, all the other producers out there that had single malt on the shelf started to bring out older age statement things. And it changed from being this kind of mindset that if you leave whiskey in the cask for too long, you know, 15, 18, 20 years plus, it's going to be over-oaked. It's going to be too, you know, it changed, and people realized that it's not about how long you leave it in the cask. It's what kind of cask. It's about, you know, curation and maturation. It's about looking after the whiskey and things and getting it to a much, much more mature place. I tried a very, very old, a 30-year-old product recently that really was as pale as new make, but it had been in a cask for 30 years and tasted wonderful. It was just fabulous. So the idea that whiskey has to be a certain age in order for it to be enjoyed is folly now. We tend to go into these things with open minds, open eyes, open palates, let's say. I hope that's the case. But we still find ourselves considering the entry level for a core range product is 10 years. Yes, there are non-age statements under that. Some people have 8-year-old age statements like Glenallachie and in the past Glendronach and things. And Ardbeg have got a 5-year-old under their 10 and things. But really, when we think of the 10, that's still, in our minds, that's the entry-level point. So that's the reason that we're focusing on tonight. These 10-year-olds should be, for the most part, the majority of them should be fairly ubiquitous, should be familiar to us. There's a lot of less familiar, more obscure ones on the list of the community poll I put out there, but I just did it to be a completionist. I wanted to give everyone the option of everything. Before we get into all of that, I'm going to share with you my top 10 list. I would like to raise a toast to my late father-in-law, says Cesare, who passed away yesterday. Zibsek. I know I've probably pronounced his name wrong there, buddy, saying, may you rest in peace. Cesare, my friend, if you'll allow me to do the same thing and raise a wee toast in the order. I won't try and pronounce his name again, my friend. I'll repeat your wishes and say, rest in peace. We're here with you, Cesare. It's nice to have you in. Cheers. Everyone is saying, to be honest, I enjoy a Legic 10 for a lemon note over the Springbank 10 funk. I understand the fanboy aspect of Springbank and appreciate its quality, but taste is not my favourite. Chris, that's exactly why we talk about things as a community. I think that while you are likely to see Springbank 10 at the top of the polls tonight, you're going to see things like your favourite performing pretty well too. Right. Okay, Justin Wan is celebrating being a member for 18 months. Saying, good evening, guys. Lechick 10 in the glass tonight. Fantastic. Good to have you in supporting as a barfly, Justin, and on theme. Hey, Gordon Burniston is saying, camping at Machrihanish this weekend with the family. Won't be too much whiskey action, although the Springbank 10 is packed for Beachtrams Aquavitae. A lot of people heading down to Machrihanish right now. Helen and Andy, there right now, decorating their new house. Gordon Burniston camping on the shores of Machrihanish, looking out to the west. What a gorgeous sunset tonight. And some other friends and things like that are talking about making the move down the peninsula as well. What a draw it is. Danny Keenan's bought me a dram. Good to have you in, Danny. Superstar, good to have you joining us. Sipping a Ben Nevis 10-year-old. Cheers, Roy and the Barflies. You'll notice that the Ben Nevis 10-year-old Danny is one of the options in the live poll running in the YouTube chat tonight. Thank you for your dram. I think what we're going to do here is we're going to start 10, 9, and we'll do a countdown to first rather than 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10. Gary Field is celebrating being a member for 4 months, saying Arna 10th anniversary dram in the glass. Right on point. Maybe get a bit of a mention a wee bit later as well, Gary. Good to have you in. Okay, let's do this. I've got some slides to share with you for the visual reminder, and it'll help me put housekeeping chapter markers in, which I've not been very good at recently. Let's make that the background. Let's do this. You've already seen the top of this, so you know what I'm putting in at number 10, and you know that it's in my glass already. It's a new layout here tonight, and that's because I want to be able to show you the bottle on screen as well as a wee image of it. Now I hear you cry foul, Glenmorangie 10, it's already been discontinued, hasn't it? Yes, it's true, it has. But this has been a 10-year-old for so long. When a lot of other producers were dropping age statements, Glenmorangie held on to it. And I have to say, in my opinion, when it comes to quality never dropping, consistency always there, regardless of how they brand this thing and make it look, it has been the most consistent Scotch single malt whiskey for as long as I can remember. It might be 40% ABV, and there are other 40% ABVs that I enjoy that I'm going to keep on the shelf. I'm maybe not going to call them perma-shelf items, and maybe not call this perma-shelf item, but probably it would be, except that now it's changed. It's no longer a 10-year-old. They've increased it to a 12-year-old. That said, this has been one of my constant companions forever. I don't know how many years I would need to go back to a time where I didn't have Glenmorangie 10 on the shelf, because it's not just a case of I've run out of Glenmorangie 10. I have multiple vintages of it. I've got old 70s bottles and 80s and 90s and 2000s and the previous branding before this, just for fun. And I think one of the most reassuring things that Glenmorangie brings, it has changed over the years, like all Scotch whisky has. It has changed, no doubt. Yes, it's going to change in the bottle as well, a wee bit of maybe old bottle effect and things just, the chemistry of the whisky changing. But the consistency of this is fantastic. I'm as surprised as you are that there's a 40% whisky in my lineup, but I like the stuff. I'd go as far to say I love the stuff. There might be things that dislodge this tonight, but for now, it makes it into my top 10. How am I going to... Who's this? Is this going to fit in? That's going to be my benchmark. There we go. We can just about see it on there. Good. So what about my number 9? Well, I think this is also going to surprise you, and I'm going to run through these quite quickly, just get them out of the way, okay? My top 10 is here for posterity, for anybody who cares. I'm going to share it with you, but it's not going to be the focus of tonight. You're going to be surprised at this being away languishing at number 9, but I've agonized over the order of this. And where I am in June of 2025, this is where this one's sitting, and that's true for all of the ones I'm going to share with you. Number 9 is Aaron's ubiquitous, amazing, rock-solid, dependable, crowd pleaser, 46% all-natural, even features Braille on the label, the Isle of Arran Lochranza's 10-year-old super malt. It is literally a tour de force of single malt Scotch whisky. People love this. You can pick this up £40 and under still. I think the RRP is probably 45, a wee bit higher. Bargain prices for fully natural whisky. For me, the reason that this is down in number 9 and not higher up is that it's quite a sweet whisky, and that crowd pleaser aspect is very forefront for me. So it's got lots of toffee and caramel. It's got lots of orange. It's got lots of sweet citrus, things like that. All the crowd pleaser notes that everyone likes. But it means that when I was holding 2 bottles up and deciding where to put this, it was getting bumped a wee bit. Certain bottles, it was being accelerated a wee bit, and it certainly made it comfortably into the top 10. But Arran 10 sits in position number 9 for me. And I know that you're going to have complaints or criticisms, or you're going to have your own ideas of how you're going to sort it out. But your turn has been happening all week, and the results of all of your opinions have been put together for the poll at the end of the session tonight. I'll share it with you. Let's move on to, hopefully you're seeing these corks as I bring them on screen. Move on to position number 8. This would be higher up, I suspect, if we had a bit less chill filtration and a bit more ABV. You know, of course, that I'm going to be talking to you about Benromach. Listen, this is kind of one of everybody's favourite distilleries. Benromach over the years just seemed to go from strength to strength. Gets better and better and better over time. They're giving us lots of natural stuff. They've got their cask strength with vintages out there, and we can tell what age it is through the vintages and bottling dates. And they've got their wonderful experimental playful contrast series. So they're doing various ways to dry staves, air dried and kiln dried, really geeky stuff. Barley varieties, organic, all of these wonderful things. Sherry cask, smoke and sherry, and all of these things. So they're bringing us lots of geeky stuff that we can get into while maintaining their core range at 43%. That's true for their 10, their 15, and their 21-year-old, which means that this has been chill filtered, which is a wee shame because the liquid is gorgeous. So why am I okay with Glenmorangie at 40% ABV and supporting it and putting it in the top 10, and caveat and Benromach always caveating Benromac at 43%. And the reason is that there has never been an example of a whiskey that we love so much. We affectionately call this the Springbank of Speyside, and it's the biggest compliment we can pay this stuff. And it's always just that little bit frustrating because Benromac 10 is not competing with Glenmorangie 10. It's not been sold by the tens of millions in multiples and supermarkets and airports and all of these things. This is a much smaller distillery, a much smaller, more focused thing, and it would be nicer if it was presented in a bit more of a kind of natural, I dare to use the word artisanal craft way. Listen, I know it's tiresome, but as long as this is at 43%, I think we always need to mention it. Could be a wee dot better. That said, it's a permashelf. It's fantastic, and it gets position number 8. Be interesting to see where you've put Benromac 10. I'll give you one more, and then I'll hop into the chat. Let's see if you can spot what this bottle topper is here. Sometimes I forget how dramatic, how rude, how slap you about the face, how extreme this whiskey is. And I don't just mean this bottle in front of me, I just mean as a distillery and as a product they're putting out there. This is a 10-year-old from this distillery. It's an Islay distillery. But specifically, I've picked the cask strength version. It's twice the price of the standard 10-year-old. The 10-year-old cask strength Laphroaig, you need to be paying about £70 to £80 for, depending on the batch and things. Older batches like this, if you want to buy this batch 10, which is really quite good, I think we're up to about batch 15 or 16 now on Laphroaig's cask strength releases. You have to pay more for the older batches and things. They're still kicking about in retail at times. But generally, you don't need to worry about which batch you're going to pick up, because this is remarkably consistent in terms of quality. The makeup doesn't drift too much. And the biggest thing about it is at 10 years old, the Laphroaig character is really quite loud and strong. Yes, you can have a moment with Laphroaig's 10-year-old standard core range, their anchor product, but it's at 40% ABV domestically in the UK. I know that some of you guys out there at export markets get it at 43. Good for you. We get it at 40. And it really makes it quite insipid when you've developed a taste for much more dense, flavorful things at higher ABV. That's why I'm suggesting that for enthusiasts, you go out and you treat yourself to a wonderful extreme on the Scotch whisky bandwidth, and that is Laphroaig's cask strength. Coming in, position number 7. So there we go. We'll continue this in a second. I'm going to try and get some reactions from the chat. Jimmy Legacy, and I have that 100 proof Benromac 10-year-old here, unopened. Should I open it? I've had it for like 10 years. Jimmy, thank you for the drama, my friend. Thank you. If you're asking me for my opinion, you know how I feel about sealed bottles of whiskey, especially if it's something that you literally want to understand again and taste. Let it be tonight, if the mood suits you, big guy. I hope it's as good as you remember. Stevie O has sent 20 Aquavitae gift memberships out to 20 random barflies that's joining us tonight. Stevie, thank you for your support and your generosity, my friend. That means all of these people have suddenly got access to the channel-themed emoji, the barfly loyalty, things like that, and they keep it ad-free. Finally Done is celebrating being a barfly for 18 months, saying, sipping on our Big 10 for the first time in a long time. Are you enjoying it? Is it going down well? Sometimes I'm surprised how good our Big 10 can be. Hell's what I say, no 10-year-olds to hand, so Andy has a local brew Kilkerran 12, near enough. Lemonade for me, just lemonade, Helen. I hope that's because you're needing refreshed rather than and it's just not in the mood for a dram rather than any other issues. I know you guys are going to be quite tired and exhausted. Look after yourselves. Whiskey Weekend Drama saying Laphroaig 10, cask strength Aquavitae. Absolutely, Harrow, you spotted perfectly. And Peterhead is saying no, £67 at the distillery, currently batch 17 Aquavitae. We can take this as read from Frank because he's just back from Islay. and £67 at the distillery. That's a good, neat price for it. I'd say that that's better pricing than it's been in recent years. Currently batch 17 for cask strength Lefroy 10-year-old. And Harrow is saying, yeah, I'm also planning to get my last glass tonight with this Lefroy 10. Nice. You've already teed it up. Rick Johnston is saying, love the Lefroy cask strength. Brilliant, Rick. Nice to see some consensus as well. And I would say that when we share the results of the community poll, what comes back from you is interesting too. David is saying, whoa, was not expecting a Lefroy and an Aquavitae list. The best one probably. Great choice. Have I ever expressed dislike for Lefroy? I think it's one of the most fantastic spirits that's out there. I think it's a wonderful thing. Arnie's saying the only 10-year-old official bottling I have in my home shelf tonight is Glencadam 10, so I'm glad it exists. How wonderful for this time of year. Absolutely perfect and on point. And Sachin Kent is in saying, just about to open the cask Speyside 10-year-old first edition. Perfectly on point tonight, Sachin, and it's nice to have you, and my friend, I hope you're keeping well. Apo de Geest is here, my friend. I feel like it's been a long, long time since I've welcomed you in. It's nice to have you here tonight. Number one for me is Bowmore 10 Tempest, batch 1 to 3. Those were limited editions. I don't know if we can include those. Fantastic ex-bourbon, high-strength ABV, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Bowmore. Why don't we have more of it, Apu? Nice to see you in here. Ian Bruce is saying, good evening, Ryan Barflies. Lechick 10 on the clearance at my local bottle shop for 74 Australian dollars. I actually got a bottle a few weeks ago for 86 Australian dollars. That's fantastic, and I think that's running in about the 40 quid mark, which is similar to what it is here. And finally, which is pretty good prices for Australia, though, right? And finally, then is saying, yes, it's actually better than I remember. Quite citrus under that smoke. Fantastic. So that's him enjoying these Ardbeg 10. Luna Aaron is saying Lefroy 10 cask strength 16 on a Berlin bottle for €64. Prices, I've been thinking about doing a kind of prices vPub, but I just feel like I like to make the content a wee bit evergreen. So prices would be very focused on the moment, but the prices are coming down. Bargains on Diageo special releases, anyone? Like 80% off this stuff that hasn't been shifting. Will Diageo pay any attention to this when they release the special releases for 2025? Will we see some realistic price attenuation? Will we see things? We don't know. Anyway, let's move on with the list. This might be a wee surprise for a lot of you, but I know that at least one of you is actually sipping this tonight, and I might pour a wee glass of this because I know for a fact it doesn't appear, it may not appear for discussion later on tonight. So let's open up this bottle. This appeared last year in 2024. And it came out with a 16-year-old. There was an older version as well, far too expensive. 16-year-old was okay. It was under £100 or around about £100, I think. Bit pricey. But this is a 10-year-old. And this is an official bottle that seems to be handled relatively well. And we believe it to be natural colour. Unfortunately, we don't know about the chill filtration state. It doesn't say on the label. It might have said on the box. Now, I know I've presented this to you before. 48% suggests that it should be, but it's not always the case. Nevertheless, this is a cracking whiskey. I'm going to... Where are we? I'm going to bring this up now by clicking that. Here we go. Scapa and their brand new 10-year-old. Now, this is not only maybe a surprise to you that it's in the top 10, but that also it's at number 6. A pal of mine was enjoying this so much that, and there was as much of this in the bottle as well, and I gave him a wee, it wasn't a swap, it was a gift to take it home, and the knowledge that I was this had suddenly become widely available in the UK, and I was going to be able to buy a bottle for myself, and that's exactly what I did. A replacement bottle. You can see that it's opened again. This is fantastic, fruity, juicy, coastal, delicious whiskey. For an official bottling, it is not only the easiest one to recommend, but it actually stands up really, really well against lots of other 10-year-old stuff that's out there. It's infinitely better than its 16-year-old. Wee bit of heat on that. Obviously, I've been sipping the Glenmorangie there tonight. Lots of kind of toffee apple notes on the back of it. A bit of spice. Bit of heat, that 48% hitting just as I took that first sip. But really, really quite a bright, vibrant take. I would love to see Scapa coming out with maybe leaning a bit less on sherry, maybe a bit more bourbon forward, maybe trying to harness some of that kind of coastal, that kind of outdoor thing that Scapa has the capability of doing. But nevertheless, after the mess that was the Skiren and what was the other one called? I can't remember. Glanza, was it Scapa Glanza? 40% releases. In the past, Scapa have been able to get away with 40% releases, but it's benefiting hugely from higher ABV. And I know it's going to be a surprise to some of you, but it's in my top 10 list. Coming in at number 6. That Scapa 10 is a need list addition for me, says Graham Young. Good to have you in, buddy. He's saying next time I'm over, it's a buy for sure. It's not always available all the time. Keep your eyes out for it. There should be enough of this to go around. There's a sailboat on the label, so it must be good aquavite. Scapa usually does, big guy, it does. Highland Hamish is saying, I had Scapa 10 in a lineup 2 weeks ago at a festival in Bewley, and feedback was first class. And even when you're sipping it against its 16-year-old, it's nothing to do with me being annoyed about the price and the lack of value offering for the 16. Objectively, the Scapa 10 is a better product, in my opinion. Enjoy my Glenallachie 10 cast strength, says everyone tonight, but tempted to crack the Ben Romack 10 Imperial strength like Jimmy Legg. But it is precious and not replaceable. It's always replaceable, especially when auction prices are coming back to us, Chris. I know it might be tricky where you are in the US. Pedro in Brazil saying the new Scapa is outstanding aquavite, and for me, the best of the new expressions. Glad you're enjoying too. David Evans is saying, objectively, Glenfarclas 10 is better than the Glenmorangie. I couldn't have picked a better contrast to Glenmorangie than Glenfarclas 10. When we talk about inconsistency versus consistency, it's wild how different it is. You can have a banger of a Glenfarclas 10 that's creamy and waxy and fantastic, and it doesn't matter that it's 40%, it's just gorgeous. You replace it and you bring another one and it's thin and spirity and what's going on. Glenmorangie is utterly consistent. But who wants objectivity in whiskey? I suppose, David, we should strive for it, right? Andy Peters is saying, did I miss number 7? Lefroy 10. Did I maybe not bring the slide up? Is that the mistake I made? Apologies. 10 is Glenmorangie 10. Aaron is number 9. 8 is Ben Romack. 7 is Lefroy 10 cast strength. And 6 is Scapa. I might have forgotten to bring the slide up. I'll show you that it did exist. Apologies if I didn't share that at the time. Sorry, Andy. Nice to have you in. Glenn Duncan is here. Good to see you all the way down in Australia, saying I'm a Scapa fanboy, especially old stock. The 12-year-old is an absolute fave. Before the 12-year-old, my goodness, you are going back now. There was a 14-year-old, and then there was the 14-year-old was the kind of beige label. And then the 16-year-old was the kind of aqua blue and white. Always thoroughly enjoyed, regardless of their 40% presentations. The rehash that they did and the ones that I mentioned, the Skiren and Glanza, never enjoyed them. Embarrassed to say, says Scott McIntyre, I have never tried a Scapa. We'll need to seek one out. Scott, don't be embarrassed, because like so many other Pernod Ricard and Diageo and other distilleries out there, Scapa has always been considered either a workhorse or just the liquid was too precious to dedicate too much to official bottlings. And certainly it's very, very difficult to get any through independent bottlers. There was a time that Gordon MacPhail had a licensed bottling, an official-ish, semi-official Scapa through them. But generally speaking, it's one of the hardest malts to get a hold of. But it has its fans, and it's worth seeking out, Scott. Anyway, let's move on to number 5 for me. Number 5, we've already talked about it, and this was up and down my list. It was getting pushed up and down and backwards and all around, but it deserves it. I often refer to this as being one of the Guardians of Islay. We've already had the Lefroy 10 cask strength out here, but here we've got a 46%er, all natural product, and it is, of course, Ardbeg's 10-year-old, and at number 5 for my personal list. Still love this stuff. My favourite thing to do with this is to bring it out in contrast with things that it's going to clearly contrast with. It works quite well, but in contrast to other things that are similar to it. So let's imagine like the Port Charlotte 10 would be a good example to bring it out against. Maybe you would bring it out against something like a nice 48% official Lefroy or something. The Lagavulin 8 is a nice one to sip it against as well. And I'm not suggesting that what this will do is that it will stand better than any of those. But what it does do is that when you're sipping a lot of peaty whiskies, especially ex-bourbon cask leaning stuff like this 10, they can start to become a bit muddy and mucky and kind of blend, just merge into each other. So when you sip them side by side, it helps you dial in the definition and the contrast between them. And that's when this lovely sootiness for me of Ardbeg shines, that sharp acidic citrus, and sometimes a surprising and really charming malty creaminess that comes through as well. It takes a wee drop of water really, really well, but not much, maybe not the teaspoons or the jug pours, just going in with a tip of a teaspoon or water dropper or something like that. It's still somehow one of the most consistent products out there, despite all the shenanigans that exists outside of Ardbeg. Number 5, and we're running out of space here. Let's go on to number 4. This will not surprise you that it's in my top 10, but it might surprise you that it's as down as low as number 4. This has been my whiskey of the year in the past, maybe not the 10-year-old age statement, but it's been celebrated by me for as long as the vPub has been running, and deservedly so. I'm, of course, talking about one of our favourite Burn Stewart, then Distell, then more recently CVH Spirits, 46.3% ABV, Lechic 10-year-old. You can see I don't have much left in this. And I kind of peeked on the shelf to see if I'd got a backup bottle behind it, but I don't, because this is a perma-shelf bottle for me. There are so many applications and places and ways to use this whiskey. It's got a slightly more dense feel about it compared to the Islay equivalents. A little bit more of a kind of, I wouldn't go as far to suggest funk, but maybe a wee bit more kind of mulchy farminess about it. Depending on, there is batch variation with Lechic 10. You can see the color variation as well. Sometimes you can see the color variation on the exact same shelf. You've got a really quite rich, dark colored ones. You've got ones that's sometimes a bit redder. You've got some that are very, very clearly from much less active casks in terms of color, at least, and a paler one. This is somewhere in the middle, I would say, but the one I had before this was very lemony and pale, a little bit like the image on screen right now, actually, now that I look at it. Don't let that put you off. Yes, you might prefer one over the other, but they're all going to be, the minimum floor of quality is excellent, absolutely excellent. So before I go into my top 3, there you go. What do you think of those thus far? What about Lechic 10 Hebridean Moon? Gary Field is saying, well, Gary, what I'd suggest to you about Hebridean Moon is that you can see, if you're in the live YouTube chat tonight, sorry if you're on replay, but Gary, you're in already. There's a poll already on the go here. And if you're interested and you would like me to open the Lechic 10 cask strength Hebridean Moon, it's at 58.8%. I have it here on the side. And it's alongside the Ben Nevis 10 up for opening, 46%. Belechin 10-year-old at 46%. That's Peter Edredar. And that's alongside the standard 43% 10-year-old Edredar sibling. So depending on how the votes go, that's going to be what gets opened. Please vote along. I can see we've got 311 votes in already. So if you've got access to the YouTube chat, drop in your vote there, and that's going to help me decide what uncork. At least 2 of those I think are going to be uncorked tonight. Right, Johnson's saying, I'm guessing that today's quiz will be on point with 10 questions. There will be 10 questions. very unlikely, Rick, that all 10 are going to be focused on 10-year-old whiskies. Okay, let's get on with my top 3. There have been times in the past that our Big 10 came ahead of this. But for the climb, where Ardbeg has been consistent, what we have seen with this producer over the years is a climb in quality, a climb in flavour and engagement, and also a climb in consistency. I'm speaking about Port Charlotte. This is the Port Charlotte 10-year-old, of course. 50% ABV, which is really nice. It's really nice to have that extra ABV presentation on this one. It was easy to put this in at number 3. It was much more difficult to put it again ahead of our Big 10. It was certainly difficult for me to put it ahead of Leipzig, 10-year-old. But I think when you see, listening, this can be a wee bit more expensive as well, which goes against it too. You can pick it up at a bit less than 60, sometimes about 54, 55. But the RRP for this is 60, and you can sometimes see it. I've seen it on some retail shelves north of that. Fine, it's if it's an independent retailer and things. They need to make a wee pound or two more, right? But generally, you can get this comfortably sub £60. So it is a wee bit pricey, but to have a Bruichladdich, this is Port Charlotte's, of course, from Bruichladdich, with an age statement on it and 50% ABV, regularly available, and not only consistently good, but seemingly, in my opinion, getting better. I'm tempted to pour a wee drop. I'm just maybe going to do that now. Just a wee, I poured a wee bit too much, I think, of my Scapa 10. I only need a teaspoon, just to kind of remind myself. There is a kind of acidic, winey, floral element to Port Charlotte 10 for me. But every time I buy a new bottle of it, it seems to get a little bit thicker, a little bit more dense, a little bit more richness starts to appear. And some of the things that I didn't enjoy so much in the past, you would sometimes get a wee bit of a lactic note with it. Some people that would play as a little bit cheesy or whatever. I'm not so sensitive to that. I quite enjoy it, but I think if you're sipping it in contrast, I think that's when it kind of stands out, as maybe you're drawn to something that's a bit more fruity or floral rather than kind of funky and cheesy. Getting none of that on this tonight. This is a fairly fresh bottle. This has been purchased in the last 6 months or a year, I would say. Takes you right back to the shores of Islay. Full, thick, benefits hugely from that ABV. Lovely sweet citrus. Acidity, that's what I'm talking about, it's there. Nice sharpness, almost like a winey note. A green element. Floral, just from one sip. Super peaty. This style of whiskey is the thing that numbs my ability to pick up smoke and malt. When you start to mine a seam of these whiskies, and the only thing that you're reaching for are Port Charlottes and the Ardbegs and the Ardnahoes and these kind of big smoky peaty things. Then when you pick up a Highland Park, a Kilkerran, a Springbank, and even other strong peaty whiskies, you've just dialed out the smoke and the peat, and I do suffer from it quite a lot. That said, it's worth it. This is great whiskey. Fernando's saying PC10, love the bottle, love the label, love the liquid, fantastic dram. Nice to see consensus in the chat. 2 more to go. You know what one of them is, but I guarantee that number 2 might surprise, nay, shock you potentially. Let's have a wee look at what's coming in at number 2. It's a bit of a hero for me. It is the summer splendor, the fantastically vibrant, wonderfully subtle, yet somehow fresh and vibrant and bold. The absolute gem that remains Glencadam's 10-year-old. This is a peach of a whiskey. Yes, it's lots and lots of orchard fruit, lots of kind of pears and apples, lots of that. There's lots of kind of light, bright citrus in it too, floral stuff, toffees and caramels abound. But the biggest thing for Glencadam 10, I want to pour this as I'm talking to you now. I'm very familiar with this whiskey. Love this stuff. It's a gem for me. Is just how it charms every time you go back to it. If you've never tried Glencadam 10, there's lots of people that love the really pure spirit-driven 15. There's lots of people that go for a bit more maturity. It's a bit expensive now once you get into the 18 and older for Glencadam. But if you've never tried Glencadam 10, you need to try it. And if it's been a while since you've had Glencadam 10, you probably find that you need to get back to it. It's the best word I can probably use is charmer. It's just a cracker. Jeff Whiskey's in. Good to see you, buddy. He's saying, how have I never had Glencadam 10 before now? In the glass now, aquavite and a soft fruit bomb. Super fruity, absolutely. Sometimes, especially when it's a fresh bottle, sometimes you get a nice fizz and an effervescence from it too. Surprises me, not one iota aquavite, all bourbon cask, all the time. Absolutely. Glencadam have a very, very good way of presenting this stuff. And yeah, I shouldn't have poured a Port Charlotte. Maybe I'm just in the mood for it now because it's the summertime, because of the heat, right? It just does that. We're running out of space, but I think we've got a wee bit of space here for the final bottle. So let's see. What do you think my number one in my list is? Where are we? We're an hour in already. We need to get the wheels on here. Share everything else I've got to share with you tonight. What's going to be my number one pick? We probably don't need to talk about it too much because I guarantee you more than any other pick that we are going to have tonight, this one will be spoken about a wee bit later. Darth Kermit is in. Hey, good to see you, buddy. Hey, Darth Kermit. Is it Robin? I feel like it's Robin. I know I've met you a few times, buddy. It's nice to have you. And I like Glencadam cask finish range, tasty and cheap at just 40 quid. Absolutely. I would still pick my fresh bourbon 10-year-old over all of them every day. And the price isn't that much different either, buddy. It has to be the Tobermory 10, says Rob Halford. The old Tobermory 10 at 40% ABV as well, right? Absolutely. Springbank 10, says Dave Barnes. I wonder, says ED4G. And I don't know if that's kind of tongue-in-cheek. I know there's a wee bit of thing there, but is it, would you agree with it or would you disagree with it? Because you're in a safe space in here. Peter Lee's saying Springbank 10, number one. Springbank 10 all day, Graham Young. Glasgow 10, says Oliver and Whiskey Veritas. We are going to talk about Glasgow's 10-year-old because I've already teased it, right? But we're not at the stage where it's core range yet, of course. Fernando's saying, I guess Springbank or Ardna. And Brian Cabais has said day off today. That's why I can join you until the end. Fantastic, Brian. Good to have you in, buddy. I can tell you that you're absolutely all correct. This is a sealed bottle, actually, that I have. But just a wee bit out of reach here. I have a bottle with some dregs in it. Now, is that better there? I think it will actually fit and still be able to be seen over my shoulder, I think. It just so happens that my Campbelltown shelf is off to the left here, or the right as you're looking at me. But there's a Springbank 10 with a wee drop left in it. Let's just keep dirtying the glasses, right? What can we do here? Well, let's clean this. What's this? Oh, that's the Port Charlotte. A lot of peat in that. But we have to pour a wee Springbank 10 just to remind ourselves what it's all about. Before I get into some 10-year-olds, that for whatever reason have never featured on a vPub in the past. So when we talk about fruity, fantastic. And I think there's just such an obvious, it's difficult to describe what that thing is, that Campbelltown thing is. So many of us call it funk. So many of us have got different descriptors for it. Some of us talk about a coastal element. Some talk about a farming element. Some talk about an industrial side. It's all of it. It's just all of it. And I think this is going to be wonderful of it with a wee bit of water in that glass there as I rinsed it out. Cheers, everyone. Yes, it's a surprise to nobody that my number one is, I'm not keeping up with the slides here, is of course the wonderful thing that is Springbank's 10-year-old. Cheers. I'll go further than suggesting it's my number one. What I will also say tonight is that I will sometimes pick the 10-year-old over the 12 cask strength, and I will sometimes often pick it over the 15 as well. I just think it's a masterclass in single malt Scotch whisky. I really do. And I know that a lot of people start to talk about echo chambers and all of that stuff as well. But like I said earlier in the stream tonight, we all end up at a point where we're sitting it and we're drinking it. We're going, okay, it's just, there's a reason that people love this stuff. That's despite the fact that it's very, very hard to get a hold of. It's Springbank 10, also my number one, says Whiskey Weekend Ram. Thanks, Harrow. He's saying, but I don't often open a new Springer 10. I still have 2 bottles left and I savour it a bit. That's, again, we have to be a wee bit careful with it. Same as me, we're going to be a bit, because we don't really know if that bottle does run out, how easy is it going to be to get another one? However, I put it to you, if you're in a position where obviously right now it's kind of Springbank week, it's just dropped, so there has been over the recent few days, there's been Springbank out there for people to pick up. I didn't pick up any this time, but generally it's been out there on the market and it's more available than it's been in recent years. However, if you struggle, just go into auction, you're only paying £5 or £10 more, which is less than some of the scalping that's happening at some far-flung retailers who are charging over the odds, whether they're an official outlet or not, or whether they're having to pay extra to get it in or something. I don't know. I suppose we should be giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I wouldn't be paying inflated prices through retail. If you want to pay a £5 extra, fine. It's an independent retailer or something like that. But, you know, auction prices have consistently been only £5 and £10 more for the Springbank 10. There seems to be plenty of it out there. Okay, let's get on to Justin One's bought me a wee dram. Thank you very much. He's saying, eyelids heavy. Got to pull the parachute. We'll catch the rest on replay. Slanch at everyone. And Justin, of course, is out there in Hong Kong. He's hours ahead of us. It's actually tomorrow. It's well into Friday. In fact, he should probably be starting work soon. Justin, it's always nice to have you pulling long night shifts to join us, buddy. And you're forgiven. Thank you for the dram. And welcome back now that you're here on the replay, buddy. Cheers, Justin. Thank you. Scappa's holding up quite nicely against the Springbank. It really is. A quite nice kind of grapey, clean fruit. I'm really quite impressed with that Scappa, that 10-year-old. Pedro's also saying he's having to leave earlier today. Be back soon to catch up, aggravating barflies. Always amazing to hang out with you. Cheers. Thank you, Pedro. I hope you come along and participate in the poll at the end of the quiz. He said, I picked up a Springbank 10 for £65 at auction a couple of weeks ago. Good stuff. 65 quid. That's what I'm talking about. I think retail is 55 on it just now, something of that order. Everyone is saying, I think I actually hear Jimmy Legg saying, my precious in America. He's not wrong. He's not wrong, Chris. All right. We've got the poll on the go here, right? And we're going to decide what we open from that, because there are some 10-year-olds here that haven't appeared in my list, but they could theoretically break into this list, I suspect. At least one of them will. Let's see. But I'm going to open whatever you decide I should open. Let's hold them up here. First up, sitting waiting for the right moment, we've got Balakin, 10-year-old, peated. This is a recent purchase. I was actually reminded by the community that this was almost forgotten from our poll, but it was quickly added within an hour or two of the poll going live. Balakin's 10-year-old is a 46% ABV product made at Edredar. 10-year age statement on there. And its sibling product here has also got a 10-year-old age statement on here. This is the standard Edredar 10-year-old. This is 43% ABV, but it won't be forever. As soon as they use up all the the packaging and bottling, and as soon as they get past the glut of 43% stock, they're moving to 46, unchill filtered, fully natural, Edredauer 10. It's a decision that's already been made, and this will change in the future. So if you're loving this, its current presentation, you might want to grab a wee backup bottle. Then the other two that I was offering up for you guys to decide is that I'm pretty sure that I've had Ben Nevis 10-year-old featured on past vPubs. I've certainly had the Coralish involved. I've had their batch strength or batch one cast strength that they brought out years ago, which was their magnum opus and absolute peach. But what I've not had is the new branding of the Ben Nevis 10, and that's what I've got here. This has been on the shelves for a long time now. It can be tricky to get Ben Nevis 10 at times. It's not quite as bad as Springbank, but when it disappears, and you're never sure when it's going to come back again. It's just the way that it works, but it's often out there. It's usually about 55 to 60 pounds for a 10-year-old. A wee bit pricey, but it is a very, very unique spirit. And then this one has not been on the vPub before because it's pretty new. This just came out a couple of months ago. And this is a product from Leipzig. This is the Hebridean Moon that's been mentioned by you guys. It's ostensibly Leipzig 10-year-old cask strength. This has a 10-year-old age statement on it. Cask strength, we don't know if this is going to be considered core range. We don't know if it's going to be like they've been having cast strength. It's going to be kind of a regular release or something. We just know that this Hebridean Moon is a cast strength version of Leipzig's 10-year-old. Now, it's exclusively bourbon cask matured, which gets me excited. 58.8% ABV. If it was my choice, this is one I'm keen to try most. But the choice is yours as to what I open tonight. There's one other 10-year-old that's not featured in the vPub that will absolutely appear a wee bit later on. Whether we open it or not is down to you guys. But that's the four. We can only do a poll of 4 tonight, and that's the 4 that we've chosen. Let's see what the votings are. Let's open it up. Okay, hopefully it's going to publish the results. It's pretty obvious what I'm opening here. Okay, out of the... And I'll do the poll again. I think we should do it again because it might change things. But Leipzig 10 cast strength, 56% of you. So it's quite a majority are looking for me to open that. Ben Nevis came second on 25, the Balechen on 8%, and Edredauer 10-year-old on 11%. So it's clearly that's the one I'm going to be opening. So let's end that. And I'll very, very quickly start another one. Start a poll and say, what next? And I'll put in here, I'll just be very, very quick. Ben Nevis, Balechen, Edredauer. And I'll start that poll again, okay? So yeah, sorry I'm asking you to vote again, but because you've only got one vote, what it means is that it might change what is voted for next. Well, the easy way out would have been just me to go for the Leipzig and the Ben Nevis, and that might be the way it plays out. But you can vote while I'm busy getting this open here. Really pretty colour. What colour would you say that is? Kind of metallic, what is that, lavender, lilac, purple, magenta? Not really sure. It's quite nice. It's unique, stands out. Quite a nice choice. If this is going to be a regular release, this cast strength, are they going to continually call it Hebridean Moon? Don't know if there's a need for that. Love the cork. I love the map of Mull on the top of this. It looks like a wee slumped over teddy bear, doesn't it? Or, yes, at least it always reminds me of that. Okay, here we go. Leipzig is open. Okay. No glug at all. I'm going to keep the pores quite small because there's a chance I'm going to be opening more whiskies and pouring more whiskies a wee bit later on. So a wee teaspoon is enough. We'll just let it sit in the glass for a second and open up. Immediately, it's very Ardbeggy. It's quite sooty on the first initial nose there. Okay, quite a nice nose to start with. Tasted at a festival and took a bottle home, says Harrow. It says enough, Aquavite. All right, I love Lechik. So he's declaring his love for Lechik, tried it at the festival, took a bottle home. Fantastic. I've been hearing a lot of positive things about it, if I'm honest. Graham Fraser is in. He's saying, finally home. You have my attention. Good to have you in, big guy. How you keeping? Have you been out on whiskey travels tonight? There you can see the poll results that have come up. Shared it with everyone. That's good. And Jimmy Lugs brought me another dram. He's saying Springbank is only number one because there's no Coquerin 10-year-old. I agree with you, Jimmy. We definitely have firm agreement on that one. Maybe we'll do a 12-year-old vPub in the future, eh? What will come number one then? Will it still be the Springer, or will Coquerin get a shout? That Lechic Hebridean Moon is a must-have for me. FOMO detected, says Fernando. So I know it's keen. I've got a gripe about it. I really do. I want to have a whinge about it. And I'll probably have the whinge before I taste it. And then I will backtrack or double down. Black Fen Conrad is saying, it looks the same colour as Tobermory 21. Tobermory 21, I have down. No, I don't. It's the 17 I have, which is a reddish one. I don't have the Tobermory 21, so I'm not very sure, Conrad. It might be a similar colour. Evo's saying, what Pantone colour is that purple? And James McGoran is in from Sweden. Again, Malt, he's saying the artist formerly known as Purple. There we go. You would suggest it's purple, right? It's quite it's a vibrant purple. It reminds me of chocolate somehow. Graham Fraser is saying Ben Nevis 10 can sometimes be found discounted in Morrison's Fort William. Oh, wow. Discounted as well, their local whiskey. Wow. Okay. My whinge about this wee bottle of Castro is a bit similar to the whinge I had about Bunnahabhain. You know, it's the sister distillery, Bunnahabhain to Tobermory, that makes Lechic here. My whinge is the price. When this came out, it was £85, and I just, that's too expensive. I would suggest it's too expensive by £20. This should be, 10-year-old cask strength whiskey should be £65. Who am I to decide that? I'm just a drinker, I'm just a punter, I'm just a commentator or whatever. But I can see the other. Why is this so much more expensive than, anyway, it doesn't matter. £85 is the reason I didn't buy it. The only reason I've bought it is because of tonight's topic for the vPub, and because so many of you have been shouting that it's really, really quite good. Is it £85 good? Because it's got quite a bit of competition. 58.8% is great. It's cask strength. Wonderful stuff. That Port Charlotte I've just sipped is very, very good. And it's 50% ABV. And it's 60 quid, £25 cheaper than that. Am I going to pay an extra £25 for 8.8% ABV? Maybe. I decided that I would wait to see if the price of this would come down, and it stayed kind of firm. I've not seen any deals or bargains or whatever on this, so I ended up having to just pony up and pay the money. Fine. The money's paid. We've got it in the glass. Let's see. It's very Ardbeggy on the nose. It really is to me just now. And I've just had a Port Charlotte. This was a slightly different. This is a bit cleaner and drier and fruitier, maybe. But there's a big, big nose of soot on this one tonight. Rich. Very bourbon cask. Sit with it. Vanilla oils. Caramel. It's not caramel, but it's brown sugar, maybe like a light brown sugar, that type of sweetness. But caramel, sure. Werther's Original, that kind of toffee note, that type of thing. So you know the drill. Bourbon cask matured. It's 10 years. I was almost ready to say only 10 years old. 58.8%. So much to unpack. This is quite a bit better than I expected from the nose. This is really good. This is well put together. Somebody's taken a bit of time over this. They've not just put together some Lechik 10 and decided to leave it at a higher ABV. I think there's been some thought. This is good. First of all, you must love peaty whiskey to enjoy this. This is no holds barred, quite raw, bold, forward peaty whiskey. It's quite sharp and acidic, and the fruit that I was getting on the nose comes across as much more kind of green apple and tart, a little bit sharper, not as kind of murky and sweet and ripe that I was expecting. It's quite clean and sharp and vivid. Bags and bags of peat smoke. Oh, no, it's really good. It's really good. Listen, I trust you. I knew it was going to be good. If people are saying this is good, this is good. If you're talking about it loudly, I suspect the only reason that you wouldn't see this appearing in polls or whatever is because it's so new. It hasn't made it out to all the markets yet. I don't know how far the distribution is for this, hence why the people in the chat tonight are talking about FOMO. But this is... It's not actually like a 10-year-old at cask strength. It's a slightly different take. I think this is a little bit more precise than the 10-year-old Lechik. This is a bit more precise. This is much more like an amped up Ardbeg 10. It's much more like let's have a wee sip. I mean, it's looking really quite, when it's sitting down here like that, it looks quite bright, but it's not that. It's not very dark. Probably quite a fair bit of first fill bourbon in here, no doubt. I'm just going to say it. The weight, the density, flirting with a creaminess as well. So, okay, there's a good comparison. I would suggest, if you're not willing to give Diageo their £155 for Lagavulin 12, that's making this look like a bargain. Lagavulin 12 has a bit more creaminess about it, I would say, a bit more elegance and poise than this. But this is a very, very good Lagavulin 12 substitute. And in shining that light on it, it makes it look underpriced, undersold. But it is not. 85 quid is too dear. We all know the prices that Diageo are asking for the Lagavulin cheese. You can tell how quickly I'm getting through it. I'm enjoying it. It's a nice kind of fizzy element too. It's helped by the ABV. I think in a quiet moment, what I'd love to do with this is just kind of sit with a wee dropper of water, putting in wee splashes of water and playing with it. Maybe bring out a bit more of that kind of creaminess that's been hinted at there. There's a nice drying, that sootiness is there on the finish. Okay, I've talked about it a lot. This is a good whiskey. So I suppose what I'm saying is, look, the price is a problem. But I don't think I need to put that or force that into this list. I don't think we need to even tackle that topic, because this may not be a regular release. This might not make it into core range. This might just be a bit of a one-off. If this was to be a regular, an annual release even, or something, a bit like a batch release like the Lefroy cask strength, yes, this could make it into the lineup. It absolutely could. 85 quid makes it harder. We've got the Lefroy 10 cask strength there as well. Everyone's talking tonight how it's £67, and in Europe it's even cheaper than that. So that's a good £20 cheaper than this. So the price is a wee bit out of kilter. This is Lechick, remember. It's one of these if you know type whiskies. I think that's brilliant. I'm going to have the last wee sip. It's just good. That's just good. That's just good. I paid over the odds. I'm not unhappy. Kyle Taylor is saying, I'm polishing off my Lechick and Glenallachie 10's today, or am I saving them for the blending podcast? No, Kyle, you are saving them. Absolutely save them. And you might be surprised that that thing is, it can't be close, but it's in the coming days. Let's see. If my whiskey has no poise, I am very unhappy, says Jimmy Lake. I'm always struggling for adjectives. Poise. It's one of these ones that, what do you actually mean? What does poise mean? It means that it's kind of, it's firm, it's confident, it's bold is too big a word, maybe. Andrew Pierce is saying all second fill ex-bourbon and a Lechick cask strength. That's even better. All it says on the front here is bourbon cask matured. Andy, thanks for doing the extra bit of research. Thanks for sharing it in here, that it's all second fill. There's maybe a bit more detail on the box. It'd be nice if they put it in the box, right? Rather than us having to go to the website. Actually, there's quite a lot of very small font there that my eyes are not ready to read without some form of a magnification, right? Anyway, let's see. How are we getting on? What do you want me to open next? What's the next one before we get into the new distilleries, the new 10-year-olds that inspired this whole topic? It's clear, it's obvious, it's not changed at all. There's a Edward Balakin's 21-25% ABV, but Ben Nevis, 54%. People want me to get into that Ben Nevis. And I have to say, a bit unlike that Hebridean Moon, that Ben Nevis has been hanging around for a while. Klitz is saying, my Dramface blend has been marrying for months now. All the better. I'm going to pretend that that's on purpose, Klitz. So this is the upcoming Dramface podcast that was actually recorded at the end of 2024, and it's become a thing. People have been referring to it as the Lost Podcast and things like that, and it's very much my fault. There's been a lot of workload and things in this stuff that gets pushed furthest down the road is the things that takes a lot of focus, big chunks of my day that's really tough to dedicate to editing. And the podcast is, we're very delinquent. I am very delinquent. But on the cutting table just now is that blending, that infamous Lost podcast, that blending podcast, where we gave people 3 bottles of whiskey, Glenmorangie 10 or the 12, it doesn't matter. Glenallachie 10-year-old cask strength and Lechick 10, make up blends and play with it and come up and try and put together a combination or a ratio that worked best, and what ratio worked best for you, a bit of home blending. So we had a peaty one, we had a sherry one, and a 10-year-old cask strength Glenallachie. And then we had obviously the very clean ex-bourbon one and the Glenmorangie 10 or 12-year-old. That'll be upcoming soon. And my memory is of that podcast. It might not be brilliant to share with everyone in terms of for you to listen to, but to record it, it was probably one of my favourites. It was great fun. Apologies to Gregor and the team. It is coming soon. Sorry, just as it jumped, scroll back up. Christoph, there you are. Sorry, my friend. I've got you now. Christoph has bought me a dram to say, he's not saying anything, he's just saying cheers. Thank you very much, Christoph. Cheers to you. Thank you for the dram. Nice to have you in again. And thanks for your support as a barfly too. Cheers. And he's saying it's also made from the first spirit from their new stills they replaced in 2014. Well, that's interesting in itself. You're a font of knowledge in here, and I'm glad to have you, Andy. That's good too. I love the Dramface podcast, Roy, and I hate everything. Jimmy, I'm starving you of it as well. It's coming soon. It's coming very soon. Gordon Burderston saying, Ben Nevis, massive birthday this year, 200 years young. Distillery has an exclusive 12-year-old single cask. Ex-American red wine, 180 quid. Unfortunately, it's a pass for me. That's clumsy. I think when you're having a 200-year anniversary, you should have something that everybody can participate in. Why would you exclude so many folk? I can't pay that. I'm not going to pay that, especially from a red wine cask. Got a lot of convincing. That's a shame. It's great that Ben Nevis is 200 years old, but that is a shame. However, this one, it's usually about 60 quid. I think 60 quid is the RRP for this. They went through a wee bit of a rebrand. It always had this really kind of old-fashioned branding. So they've cleaned things up a little bit, but it's fairly straightforward and simple. I quite like this. I think this is quite straightforward and attractive. Does it say unchill filtered? Does it say that it's natural colour on the label? Yes, it does. It says on the back, non-chill filtered and natural colour. That's what we like to see. It's got some nose and tasting notes on here as well. Doesn't really talk about casks, but this is obviously a vatting. This is a 10-year-old. This is their core range. I don't know how many years I've had this on the shelf, but it is years. It can be measured in years. But it's about time it got poured into a wee glass. We're not getting many glugs tonight, are we? Trying to keep my pores neat. Ben Nevis for me is, as I think I said earlier tonight, has always been a unique thing. It's always a wee bit scatty and all over the place. But there is something that holds it together, and that something is on the nose here. Let me try and articulate it. Some would say farm, but if you say farm, you're in a barn and you've got machinery in that barn as well. Some would say machine shop, and if you're in a machine shop, you have got some, you've got some wet rope, you've got some damp Hessian cloth sacks. And you've got this kind of weird, super overripe fruit. And in the overripe fruit, you're maybe kind of going, it's almost like prunes and figs. And then there's this odd kind of dryness that makes you think of a nutty character, maybe malt grain or a hayloft. It's always had this verging on, you would want to almost lean on the use of the word kind of, it's not funky as in it's not like Springbank's funk, but it's got that weird character, a flavour density that people love. Cheers. Much softer. Coming on the back of the 58.8% ABV Lechic. Warm, earthy tones. The comforting, rich, slightly challenging, slightly acidic and bitter and sour on the finish. I wanted to do that again. I went in for a second sip. Amazing, amazing. Drying fruit. Super ripe, super rich fruit. An odd kind of, I don't want to say acetone and I don't want to say chemical. I don't want to say, but there's something solventy, but not in an off-putting way, in an interesting way, like a vinegar, maybe. Vinegar. I think that hits it a wee bit better. A slightly sweet, overripe fruit, fermented fruit is moving into like a kind of a vinegar, almost like a sweet balsamic vinegar note. that hits it better than that chemically thing. I feel more comfortable with that. Listen, as always with these things, when I'm uncorking these whiskies and opening them, it's the neck pour, straight out the bottle. It's not a review or anything. It's just giving my initial reaction. But of course, what I'm thinking about is where I'm going to put it potentially in the lineup here. Would I dislodge any of these in my top 10? For this wee Ben Nevis, I have to say on first sip tonight, there's a few in this lineup with their jackets on a shaky peg. This, I think, does justify, it does warrant being included in that top 10. You know what? Based on nothing else than first 2-3 sips and reaction, this is a cracking single malt Scotch whisky. And it goes right up there in 8th place, which dislodges the Glenmorangie 10. Obviously, Arran goes into 10, Benromach goes into 9. So yes, I'm putting Ben Nevis 10 ahead of Benromach 10. Controversy, perhaps, but there you go. Tom Elmer is saying, oh, Hope's number 9. And good to see you, and Tom, how are you keeping up there in Alaska? Finally done is saying Ben Nevis. Always, it's going to jump, Tom, if I touch this. Ben Nevis always does have that industrial feel to it. It does, a wee bit like Benromach, actually. Seb K is in, good to see you, sharing the same dram with you now. Always get that oily machine shop, burnt rubber, tyres at the mechanics. Superb. You get the theme. You absolutely get the theme. It's so good when you're feeling this thing, and we all have different things. It's subjective, of course, but it's nice when you get a wee bit of quick consensus. Whiskey Reader, good to see you, Roland. How are you keeping? He said, I love Ben Nevis. For me, the signature is based on orange citrus notes with milk chocolate. Maybe like Jaffa Cakes, and you've nailed it, but not milk chocolate for me. We need dark chocolate. But the orange, absolutely, and rind orange, rich orange oil. Super orangey. Good to have you, Roland. Finally, I picked that one up, didn't I, buddy? Graham Fraser saying, on my tour at Ben Nevis last autumn, I got chatting with the stillman, who seemed to be suggesting that the spirit for export to Nika was lighter than Ben Nevis single malt. There used to be a story, and I don't know if it's true or not, so this is anecdotal, that the stuff that came out of the wooden washbacks, the wash that was made in the wooden washbacks would be reserved for export to Japan. And I don't know what the ratio is, but I think they've only got 3 wooden washbacks in Ben Nevis. They've got much more steel washbacks. But I don't know if there was any truth in that. Arnie Doodle Drama saying Kingsbarns is another one we can maybe expect to see a 10-year-old from soonish. Douglas, where are you? He's talking about Douglas, the founder. He's not it's owned by Weems Malts now. But of course, we're at a stage where Kingsbarns should be potentially one of the distilleries that, if they're interested in, could theoretically release a 10-year-old. We're going to get onto that now. Christoph is saying worth the price. This Ben Nevis, yes. It's about a 5 or more expensive than Springbank's 10. I would like to see it at the same price as Springbank's 10. Of course, I would like to see them both cheaper, but it is what it is. So, but yes, listen, it's quite elusive. You're not always going to be able to get a hold of a Ben Nevis 10-year-old. It comes and goes. When it's there, if it's sitting at retail, if you've not got your head round or tried a Ben Nevis Spirit before, I would encourage you to pick it up if you can afford it. It's 60 quid, and I think it will expand your understanding of single malt Scotch whisky. And Jimmy's saying everything we say here is anecdotal. Let's go with that, Jimmy. I agree with you. Everything is anecdotal. Ted, I missed a dram from you. Ted Brooks has bought me a dram and he's saying, cheers all. Need to nod out early and good luck with the quiz. Ted, I'm so sorry. I hope you've come back for the quiz on the replay. I hope you're picking us up now, and I hope you realise I haven't missed you. I'm sorry I'm a bit late with your thanking you for your dram. Ted Brooks, buddy, cheers to you. Thank you very much. Still the Scapa. The fruit on the Scapa, wonderful, wonderful fruit on the Scapa is amazing. Okay, let's move on to, before we share the community top 10 poll with everyone, let's consider those 21st century distilleries that have released 10-year-old product, and maybe consider the ones that have yet to. Let me read off the list that I shared with you last week. Remember the Ask That question at the end of the quiz last week? We said, I asked the question about how many 21st century distilleries there were that could theoretically celebrate a 10-year anniversary in 2025 and could therefore theoretically maybe look at releasing a 10-year-old product. And that was the question, how many were there? The answer was 19, and the list of those distilleries were Glengyle, Kilchoman, Daffmill, Ailsa Bay, Avanjarek, Arundel, Arbeke, Ardnamurchan, Ballindalach, Dalmunnock, Edenmill, Glasgow, Harris, Inchtairney, Kingsbarns, Roseisle, Strathearn, Wolfburn, and Stirling. That should add up to 19 distilleries. There are only 4 of those 19 distilleries that have released a product at 10 years old. Now, there are some that are older. I'm not sure about things like Ailsa Bay, but we've got things like Roseisle. They've released a 12-year-old, haven't they, as part of the special releases? They're on a couple of releases now. Kilchoman have released older product. Daffmill have certainly released older product. Glengyle have released up to a 20-year-old now. There's lots of stuff older than that. But I wanted to focus on, those are quite relatively long in the tooth distilleries now. I wanted to focus on the ones that are on the cusp of turning 10 or have recently turned 10 in the last couple of years, and they haven't done it yet. However, 4 of them have. Avanjarek released their X. I never tried it. There's a review up on Dramface of that one if anybody wants to go and read it. But Avanjarek released their 10-year-old product. They called it X, and that went out at £80 into the market. Avanjarek is a tiny, tiny, tiny distillery up there in Lewis. Ardnamurchan, of course, famously released their 10-year-old last year. Glasgow released their 10-year-old this year, and Wolfburn released their 10-year-old a couple of years ago. We cannot consider any of the whiskies I've just mentioned in the same light of judgment as the list of whiskies or the row of whiskies behind me. Why? Because they are not core range. They are very, very small. Almost, I feel like these were toes in the water. I'm a very lucky guy. I bought a bottle of this, opened it on a vPub. I feel like a muted reaction to it, because and this is the thing about the neck pour, as I enjoyed it and it dropped over the shoulder, I was loving it so much that I took it to Germany with me for Limburg. When we were over in Germany, everybody was really quite surprised by it, but not in a blow your head off type way, as in a very kind of elegant, balanced, clean, impressive, quiet, subtle way. I left it. Stefan Novak, he's in here tonight. I left the remnants of this bottle with him, and I came home thinking, I wish I had more. My wife had bought me a bottle of this when it came out. Incredible. So I have another of Glasgow's 10-year-old. I am telling you now, based on my limited exposure with this neck and shoulder and then sharing it in Germany, that I feel like if Glasgow was able to pull this off in a co-release, maybe not next year or the year after, but some point in the future, it would end up here. But I need to caveat that. The reason I loved this so much was nothing to do with port casks and sherry casks and beer casks and Tokai casks and wine casks and goodness knows. The reason I loved this so much was how thrilled I became over the pure, beautiful, clean spirit that they are actually making in Glasgow. This was a huge gamble, because not only was this bourbon cask matured and very plain and simple in that respect. But this was from a refill cask. Unpeated spirit as well. This is their naked product. Fantastic. Stefan, if you're still in here tonight, come in and chime in and let me know how you're getting on with that bottle, because I think it's gorgeous. Then we have, of course, the other 10-year-old that came out last year. I have to confess, I managed to get 2 bottles of this one as well. Listen, there was a wee bit more of availability in this than anyone expected. Most people that really tried hard to get a hold of this, probably in the UK, managed to get a hold of it. I managed to get 2 bottles of this one as well, and I'm very glad I did. This is Ardnamurchan's 10-year-old. This is their celebration bottle. This again cannot be considered core range. This was a one-off. And you might remember Alex Bruce being on the vPub in the past, and he's been on the Online Scotch Whisky Awards as well, and he's been called upon the age statement thing. Do you want to do age statement? And he kind of pushes against it because he's having so much success with a flavour first approach rather than an age statement label, print, number on a bottle led approach. However, they decided to go ahead with a release of a 10-year-old last year, and this was a fantastic wee bottle of Ardnamurchan whiskey. I might not suggest it's my favourite Ardnamurchan, but it was very, very good. Very good. Enough to make me excited about future age-stated releases from Ardnamurchan. And the same with Glasgow, if stocks could permit. We're going to get to that. And here we have another one as well. I have to say I'm going to sip this again tonight, but in the past, this has impressed me a wee bit less. And I don't know if I'm being a wee bit cruel to it, but I'll have a wee pour of this tonight. This is the one I'm going to choose, because this is now the only one of all of those 19 distilleries, only one of them can actually stand up and say, yeah, we've got a core range and it's 10 years old. And we've only been going since 2013, and that is Wolfburn. This is a bit pricey as well. This is 65 quid and up, depending on where you're buying it from. But this is Wolfburn's 10-year-old core release single malt whiskey at 46% ABV. Let's get a wee teaspoon of it into the glass and see if it's got any better. What we've got to remember: Glasgow, Ardnamurchan, Wolfburn, all of these distilleries that released that 10-year-old, we're not talking about them just dipping in and releasing a 10-year-old. We're talking about them dipping into their first year's stock. Not only likely to be the stock where they have the least amount available, but where they were still trying to dial in what they were good at doing. The optimal distillate for them. Wolfburn 10. There's a wee bit of a sour element on the nose. Is this peated? Specially selected Oloroso sherry casks. When I say sour, I'm talking about sour fruit rather than a kind of sourness from cask or anything. There's a kind of a slightly industrial vibe to this one as well. Very, very different from Ben Nevis. Very different from Ben Romack. Kind of sour fruit, like sour apple sweets. Any of those kind of sweets where they're coated in the most sour tasting thing. It's something that my kids love, but I can't eat. There's that kind of sourness here. A kind of tart, citric, puckering sourness. But a bready, heavy, fermentation-led, kind of banana bread and malt loaf type thing as well. A bit of orange marmalade, ripe orange. Let's have a wee sip. Cheers. I think I've worked out why I'm not gelling with this. And I think it's because they've just gone for sherry here. It's a little bit tart, a little bit sharp, a little bit sour. So it's almost like we're missing kind of they've just gone for a 10-year-old sherry expression, I think. We're missing a kind of a sweetness and a roundness and a softening that a bourbon cask can bring, maybe. But if I'm honest with you, sitting in front of you tonight, this is tasting and finishing way better than I ever remember it in the past. You can see over the time I've had this a couple of years, that I've gone back to it and visited it a couple of times, and I've no doubt shared it a couple of times too, but I've never felt like I wanted to go back for a second glass. There have been Wolf Burns that I've enjoyed in the past, I should say, quickly. Tonight, that's actually starting to taste really quite interesting. Maybe this is the Wolf Burn signature. Maybe this is what it's going to be like. It's going to bring a sourness, especially when it's presented in a sherry cask. £65, slightly pricey, but we have to remember we're talking about very limited stocks here. We're talking about the only new distillery of the 21st century that has been able, or that's had the motivation to step up and release a 10-year-old core range. Kilchoman hasn't done it yet. Daffmill hasn't done it yet. Of course, they've released older stuff. Glengyle have released a 12-year-old, even better. But of all the distilleries that are now, 2013, Wolfburn started making whiskey, okay, so they're 11 or 12 years in now. But they had the opportunity a couple of years ago to make a 10-year-old, and they did that. And you can still go out and buy a Wolfburn 10-year-old now. Why has none of the other distilleries of that 19 list I read out to you done the same thing? I feel strongly because they've been selling their whiskey. Famously for years, Kilchoman couldn't keep up with demand. They couldn't lay down stock for longer-term maturation and sate the demand that they had for their whiskey. So their old stock is really, really super rare and precious. Hence why they can release a 16-year-old 2 years ago, charge over £200 for it. They don't care whether it sells or not because it's so precious. They just want to make sure they don't undersell it. I didn't buy it. I'm not paying £200 for a 16-year-old Kilchoman. It was good. I got to try it. It was very good. £200 good? No, there's too much competition. There's too much other things. It's for the fans of Kilchoman, right? But there's a bunch of distilleries out there now, or in the imminent future, could be releasing a 10-year-old. Is there less focus on age statements now? Yes, I think that's true. I think we're a bit more relaxed. We don't demand it. However, is there a bit of kudos? Is there a bit of prestige to have a 10-year-old core range? I think there is. I think there is. I think it's nice. I need to caveat this Wolfburn as well, that I bought it 2 years ago. The more recent batches of this core range Wolfburn 10-year-old will be different from this. They will be from deeper stocks, from more mature stocks potentially. It could be a marked upturn. I would like to hear what you guys think if you've tried Wolfburn 10 as well. Still great colours to add to the whiskey tapestry. Okay. What have I missed? I've missed a wee dram from Sachin. Thank you very much. He's saying, just open the Jack Daniel's 10, batch 4. I really love the sweetness. Batch 4. I haven't tried any of the batches of Jack Daniel's 10. I'm glad you're in here tonight, Sachin. I'm glad you're enjoying that. It's going to be quite a step change from your... I know that you're a bourbon fan, buddy, aren't you? Doodle Drama is saying they should have called it Glasgow in the Scud. He's talking about the Glasgow 10-year-old, of course. Graham Fraser's saying there are 3 distilleries with around 10-year-old spirit, but holding off releasing a single malt. It's Aberargie, or Aberargie, sorry, Irbicki or Arbicki, and Borders, all holding their water and waiting. Peter Finnecane is in. Good to see you, Peter. He's saying interesting how a 10-year-old is viewed when it is your oldest product versus when it is one of your lowest age statements. Absolutely. Many view 10-year-old from established distilleries as entry-level low ABV. That's the point I made at the start of this. So we've kind of got the premium, most expensive, most precious stock at one end of the scale and the entry level at the other. It is absolutely quite an interesting dynamic of new distilleries versus legacy distilleries. And Luna is saying, well, it's not precious, it's scarce. That makes it not inherently precious. Yes, I talked to Doc McAllen Fine and Rare about this. Luna, I know that you're back in Germany now. I hope your holiday in Scotland was great. It's nice to have you in here. Whiskey with Molly Ben is saying, have I missed last orders? No, you're in plenty of time, buddy. David Larenko is saying, a good argument may also be that the 10-year-old stock for the first production batches may also be the less competent ones as production was fine-tuned during the last 10 years. David, I hope I mentioned that when I was chatting. I hope I made that point, but you're spot on, my friend. Sachin is saying, being diabetic means that drinking bourbon is a nice way to get sweetness without actual sugar. You've worked out a wee life hack there, Sachin. Well done to you. Fantastic. All right. We are 1 hour 56 in, and what I need to do now is just get to it and share with you what the community has decided is the top 10 best Scotch malt whiskies aged 10 years old. Here's how we're going to do this. First up, I'm going to show you how many, when I took the poll tonight, we had 448. I didn't actually close it. It's still open, but I can't imagine there's, so there were more people voting. So we're at 462 responses now. I'm going to take a beat right now to see if there's any position changes, but I doubt it. There's number 1, there's number 2, there's number 3, there's 4, 5. The only one that's going to have changed is 9 and 10. 6, 7. Wow, okay. 8. So we have had a change, but I'm not going to update the slides. I'm going to just let you know what the change has been, and I can tell you, I explain what it is. But the poll is been left open. It doesn't really matter. I can just leave it running. It might be useful in the future for people that want to put in their votes or whatever. But I took this snapshot just before the vPub went live tonight. So we took the snapshot with 448 votes. So 448 of you stepped up to take time out of your day to contribute to this poll. Thank you very, very much. That means that you're not just listening to me and my nonsense. This is us sharing consensus with you. Let's get right into it. At number 10, we don't have a number 10. We have a joint number 9. When I took this snapshot tonight, these 2 whiskies had the exact same vote count. I'll tell you what they are. At number 9, and I did not have this in my list, you guys put Glenallich's 10-year-old cask strength. Now let's see if I can do this. This will be a wee bit better for you to see the bottle. Here we go. Glenallich's 10-year-old cask strength. Slightly different branding now. I don't know what batch it went up to, about batch, I don't know, I think we're at batch 17 or something now, or 16, 17, maybe more. The batch that I have here is batch 6. This is quite an old one at 57.8% ABV. He's very, very dark at times, this can be. I've got one of the paler ones here, actually, but you can see it's really quite dark liquid. A fantastic job that was done to take this whiskey that was made for very different purposes. It was never intended to be bottled as a single malt. So there was a huge recasking program. A lot of investment went into casks. And it meant that for a while, Glenallachie was going through a process of having these very, very every release was a cask story. I think things are starting to change a little bit now. And we've now got, with the Meikle Tor releases and things like that, we've now got Glenallachie, or Billy Walker made Glenallachie Spirit coming out onto the market now. That said, the Glenallachie 10 cask strength for me was a bit of, despite batch variation being definitely part of it, something to be embraced and celebrated. For me, it was very much a kind of everything dialed up to 11 type thing. Nevertheless, people love that. If I'm in the mood, I love that. And it's obviously struck you enough, despite the fact that there was 36 or 37 actually 10-year-old core release products to choose from in the poll. Glenallachie made it joint number 9, a lot with 135 votes, alongside Benromach's 10-year-old. Now, to get you up to date, that's changed slightly. One of them has now crept ahead, because we've now got Benromach on 143 and Glenallachie on 138. So they got 3 more votes since I took that snapshot, and 8 more votes for the Benromach. So the positioning is right, so we can suggest that Glenallachie is actually at number 10 now, and Benromach makes it in at number 9. Benromach was also on my list. I put Benromach at number 8. You guys had it in 1 position less at number 9. So I wonder, should I do this wee lineup? I should. I'm going to do this wee lineup to reflect you guys, okay? So Glenmoran J doesn't currently appear. Aaron doesn't currently appear. It's going to be tough for me to find these again, right? Glenallachie does. It comes in at number 10. So at the end of the night, what we'll have in the lineup in the backdrop is your lineup. And then Benromach comes next. Let's see what you picked for number 7. Sorry, number 8. Number 8. 8 comes after 9 in this order. Laphroaig cask strength. Again, 1 position different from me. 175 votes for this one. You guys are very, very close to me. We're very closely aligned on Benromach and Laphroaig cask strength. 1 position different. And number 8. I think it's deserved. It's nice to see the consensus. What did you decide? Deserved position number 7. Hazelburn. Hazelburn 10. What we're talking about here is a bottle that I don't think I've ever had cause to hold up, raise, talk about, despite the fact of how utterly unique and special this whiskey is. Springbank makes less than 300,000 litres a year. It's pretty tiny, especially when you consider that that's all of Springbank, that's all of Longrow, and it's all of Hazelburn. Hazelburn and Longrow are made in such tiny quantities that if they were individual distilleries, they would be something along the size of a Dornoch. They would be smaller than Daftmill. That's how little volume is made of this stuff annually. They would literally be of this micro distillery scale. It's tiny. We're talking about 30, 40, 50,000 litres a year. Tiny, tiny, tiny quantities. And yet somehow, in all the years of the vPub, despite the fact that this Hazelburn 10-year-old has been sat on my shelf, sealed for years, waiting, crying to come out of its bottle. I'll tell you the date code on this, 27th of January, 2020. This is actually a pre-pandemic bottle of Hazelburn. And I suppose it has to be because I don't think they've had an official release for a couple of years now. I haven't seen it. It might have come out, but I haven't seen Hazelburn 10 for a wee while. So this is the last uncorking that we're going to have tonight, because I'm going to open this and drink this and see why you guys have put this in position number 7. Because I suspect, oh wow, it's quite a soft cork. No, we're okay. We're okay. I suspect it's the first glug that we've had tonight, that there might be something of a J and A Mitchell effect. If Longrow had a 10-year-old as part of the core range, I fully suspect it would have made it in there tonight. Springbank has got a 10-year-old, we've talked about it, and Hazelburn has a 10-year-old. So the J and A Mitchell effect means that potentially we should see it appear. What am I missing here now that I've pulled that up? Let's coat the glass here. Does anyone ever just lay the Glencairn on its side on the table and just let it roll around? Get the liquid all up and down the wall of the glass? It's quite floral, the first thing I'm getting. It just, okay, on top of all of that very, very obvious Campbelltown Springbank character, what I am getting is a kind of rose water. It's like Turkish Delight. A sweet candy. Sweet, white, maybe not white chocolate, maybe milk chocolate. That kind of vibe. On top of all of the layers of the kind of malty, rich, dense. And this is their elegant light version. This is their triple distilled spirit. Think about that. This is Springbank, unpeated barley, triple distilled from floor malted in-house maltings, 10 years age. I have to say, this is nosing resplendently well. Everything's been brilliant tonight. Everything's been brilliant, as you would expect, because people are talking about things they love. But this is fantastic. Oh, goodness. It's not Springbank. Something a little bit kind of, there's a shift here. And it's more than just the fact that this is triple distilled and there's no peat. There's something a little bit kind of more floral, slightly sour, a little bit more edgy and acidic. Oh. Listen, I've already destroyed my own lineup. You've put that in at position 7. I don't know where that would sit in my personal lineup, but I can tell you on nothing more than a wee nosing and a couple of sips, that's a disruptor that would absolutely find a space in my top 10. It's instantly, obviously well made. I feel like there's a wee bit of a cake and patisserie, toffee, vanilla, custard, apple turnover type thing. And it came on the finish there. Just terrific. So, well done you. Well done you. Well done you. I don't know why I've never gotten around to opening that bottle that's been sitting on my shelf for 5 years. A J&A Mitchell product with a 10-year age statement, all natural, core range stuff, all the stuff, not that expensive. I suspect I spent less than £50 on something that's really super, super rare. Whiskey Radar Roland is saying, maybe you discussed this tonight already, but I dropped in a bit late. I just saw the 3 new 10-year-old expressions available from Tormore under Elixir, Sherry, Bourbon, and a charred version at 48% ABV. That's the Blueprint series. So Roland, if you go back to the previous 2 vPubs ago, we featured the Tormore Blueprints. I didn't have the cream sherry cask, but I had the rechar. I had the rechar and the bourbon. So they have been featured, but they are 10-year age statement, but they're not core range. Good spot and something to seek out. David in Portugal is saying, I've only had it once and did the same face. Great stuff. Was my vote as well. Fantastic. Bye, Glenmorangie Aquaviti, says Jimmy Legg. You're absolutely right. A grain of malt is saying, you know, it has to be done, Aquaviti. Hazelburn 10 is a gem. Doodle the Dram is saying, what's interesting is that Springbank's age statements are almost a bit incidental, as the numbers stand for very distinct expressions and styles. Similar case with Loch Lomond's. Yeah, I see that. I see what you mean there. I get it. Seb K is saying, sweet basil verging on cucumber. Just grabbed the bottle off the shelf. Ooh. I like it, Seb. Definitely a green note, but fresh. Cut flowers, flower stalks. Basil and cucumber. Yeah, almost like... What's that dip called? What's the Greek dip, Raita? But there's a sweetness here, like a drizzled toffee thing. My personal favourite out of the Springbank Long Run Hazelburn is the Hazelburn 10, says Ian Bruce. Not sure why, but it's like fortified Umbongo. Does anyone? So you've just given away that you're in the UK in here, right? Umbongo is a mix of kind of tropical juices. I remember the tune. I was almost going to burst into song there, Ian, but I won't. Peter Lacey and a grain of malt. Hazelburn 10 is great, and the handful of Hazelburn bourbon is equally as good. The handful, I think he means, of Hazelburn bourbon is equally as good, if not better. You know, it's interesting that, you know, the cage bottles and things like that, the Hazelburn is maybe you'll dodge. I think I might think twice about that now. David Brody's in. Good to see you, David. He said, Weasley, as I type, Aquaviti is talking about elixir. So you're obviously having a wee private discussion about elixir. That was because it was brought up, but we did cover the Blueprint series a couple of weeks ago. Tom Franey, good to see you. He's saying, great fun this evening. Just finished the drama, my 1770 10-year-old bottle. We'll catch up on the rest of you on the quiz tomorrow. Have a good one, Tom. I wonder what you think about that 1770 10-year-old. Brian Stormont is saying, I was lucky enough to get a Hazelburn 15. Oh, my goodness. And Sandro Fazzolari's in. Good to see you, Brian. Good to see you. Sandro is saying it's called tzatziki. There we go. That's what it's called. There's always somebody in here that can help me out. The power of the community. Fantastic stuff. All right. Let's get on with it. Let's see how you went from here. That's number 7 was your Hazelburn. Number 6, you chose, the community chose, with 246 votes, Glencadam 10. Now, this is a full 4 positions lower than I did. I had this in my number 2 spot, and you had it away up languishing in number 6. I think we all need to reconnect with Glencadam 10 and work out just how unique and lovely and bright and sprightly and amazing and fruity Glencadam 10 is. You've got the memo, though. You've got it very, very high up in the rankings. Position number 6, 246 votes. Position 5 for you guys. What did the community put at the halfway point? Ardbeg's 10-year-old. Interestingly, agreeing with me exactly. Position number 5. We agree on Ardbeg's 10. By the way, I need to say that you have to imagine I've taken these slides and built them at the very last moment, just before I went live tonight to take the snapshot at the last possible moment. So my 10 I had to commit to well in advance. There was no opportunity for me to try and align so it made it look like there was consensus or I was agreeing or you were agreeing or whatever. It's not important. We don't have to agree. That's obvious, right? Anyway, sorry. Number 4, let's get inside the top 5 now. What did you put ahead of Ardbeg's 10-year-old? At number 4, you put Leipzig 10. Again, the exact same position as me. It's interesting, isn't it? 46.3%, Legic 10 goes ahead of 46%. Ardbeg 10, I wonder why that is. But the vote count is very, very close. Look, 270 versus 261, almost nothing in it. That was the closest, I think, apart from 9 and 10 positions between the Ben Romack and the, what was it, Glenallachie 10 cast strength, wasn't it? Position number 3, we're at the top 3 now. Let's see what made it into the top 3. There is a wee bit of contrast from my list, I have to say. Number 3 is an absolute agreement, and it's quite a huge jump in votes. Did you see that there? We're jumping up to, we're reaching 300 votes now. So of the 450-ish people that participated in this, 309 of you decided to give Port Charlotte 10 a vote. So coming in at number 3 is Port Charlotte 10. 50% ABV. And it agrees exactly with me. So the last 3 whiskies, the Ardbeg, the Lechic, and the Port Charlotte, 3 peaties, 3 heavily peaty whiskies, are in line with my choices. It does diverge a wee bit here because at number 2, you guys have put Arran 10. Now, for me, Arran 10 was way at the back, but isn't this the perfect little bottle of balance to put in there at number 2? So we've got all this peat smoke. We've got all these big industrial funky things. You know, with the exception of the Hazelburn and the Glencadam, we've got Laphroaig and Bunromac and Glenallachie. These are big, meaty, bold whiskies. Then we've got some lightness in here with the Hazelburn and the Glencadam 10 especially. But then we've got 3 big peaty things. And then at number 2, we've got Arran 10. It is the proverbial crowd pleaser. So at number 1, there is no surprise to anyone that there is alignment between not only just me and what you guys put forward on the poll, not just Jimmy Legg sitting there in Nova Scotia. It doesn't matter what way you dice or slice this thing. It doesn't matter what angle you come from and how you talk about it. But out of 450 people participating in the votes tonight, and I'll tell you what it is tonight, with the thing staying open, it's gone a wee bit higher than that. We're up at 464 votes now. And the Springbank 10 has gone from 373 votes to 384. So it's only been fortified. It's only got even stronger. There is nothing to do but sit back and just celebrate what Springbank are achieving with a whiskey that can have this much consensus. And the people that want to talk to me about echo chambers, and they want to talk to me about the fact that if we say that Springbank is the best, then everybody's going to believe that Springbank is the best. No, we're not little boys. We're not little girls. We're not little children. We are adults with independent thought and different palates, coming at things from different angles with different amounts of money to spend. And we love to talk about this stuff. We love to jump down rabbit holes with whiskey. And once we've done that, we gather enough experience that is valuable for the rest of the community and the rest of the industry to hear. And if that feedback and that consensus is that Springbank are making the best 10-year-old whiskey, arguably the best entry-level whiskey, regardless of age statement, the only thing we can do is pay attention to that and try and understand why. Not because we want everything else to come along and taste exactly like it, but we want some of the ethos, some of the attitude, some of the sensibilities, some of the vision and goals to be adopted by other producers as well and bring their own character and things to the same philosophy. Springbank is hard to get a hold of, and that's difficult, and it makes it difficult to talk about. But it's not impossible to get hold of. There is millions of Springbank out there. And if you want to get hold of it, you can. Maybe you might need to travel. Or you might need to tap into someone else who is traveling. Maybe you'll need to pick it up on secondary. Maybe you'll need to befriend your local retailer. Maybe you'll need to get to your local whiskey club or have whiskey pals. But if you really want to get hold of Springbank, it's not unobtainium. It's just a bit trickier to get a hold of in 2025. It is a masterclass in making people happy. It's the top of my list. It was obvious from the beginning that it would be, and it's the top of the community list as well. So there we have it. Well done, everyone. Thank you for indulging me. Thank you for participating, taking time out to do the poll. I know that it only took you, hopefully it took you a little while. You could go back and edit it and things like that as always, but it still means that you take time out of your day and put a bit of effort in. Sachin is saying, I've only had a Springbank 10 from auction before and I thought it was just okay. Maybe it was fake. Listen, it's a batch-driven product. There's a good chance, there's a possible chance that it might not have been fake, just wasn't the best. All of the recent batches that I've had, my favourite was a late 2021 batch, a tropical, just splendid thing. There is none that have been just okay. They've all been great, great, great whiskies. Jimmy Legg is saying, he's bought me a dram as well to say, did you beat me at the Guinness drinking game, Roy? I can't recall. Do you remember, Ben? Listen, it's not the amount of Guinness we drank, we should say. It's precisely exactly how much we drank. I don't remember, buddy. I don't remember. I suggest that you probably beat me. Let's go with that. I think that that's far more likely an outcome, buddy. But I'll raise this wee glass and say thank you very, very much for the generous dram as always, Jimmy Legg. And let's get together for a wee sip of Guinness in the future. Cheers. So do you know what I'm going to do with the last clean glass I have on the table? I'm going to grab my Springbank. There's probably still 2 drams left in that. So it's not going to die yet, but this is going to go this weekend, isn't it? I'm going to pour a wee bit of the Springbank 10. Raise a glass to you all and say thank you very, very much. And encourage you strongly to hang around and stay for the quiz at the end. We're going a wee bit over tonight. We might make the usual 2 hours 45, who knows. But it's a fun quiz tonight, and I fully suspect that there will be some 10 out of 10s out there. I've tried not to make it too horrible, but everyone will need a wee bit of luck on their side too. Thanks everyone for participating in a vPub that could only be pulled together with the participation of all of you. Thank you for voting and taking the time to hang out with me tonight. Cheers. Sachin, it might not be for you, but that sip, this glass, is objectively and subjectively the mood I'm in tonight, the best whiskey that I've sipped tonight, Springbank 10. It looks like that's been open for a while with these wee dregs in it, but it tends not to, despite trying to be careful with it, it tends not to hang about too much. Okay, everyone, I hope you're in the mood for a wee bit of a quiz at the end. Let's bring the quiz up tonight. How are we doing with that? Some people decide that the quiz isn't for them. Some people have discovered that the quiz is great fun and they're glad they've discovered it. We realise that we don't really care how much we score, how much we know. The fact is we just participate, because over time we learn from each other. We really do. Not necessarily learning from the quiz questions, but learning from the answers, learning from the knowledge in the community, all of that stuff. And it might just pique your curiosity in a certain area. Remember that it's multiple choice, so it's down to luck as well. So just play along, just for the sheer fun of it. 5 out of 10 is the usual pass mark. Tonight is moderately tricky, I would say. Sachin is saying, I will seek out another bottle. I suspect there's plenty of folk out there with Springbank 10 that would be happy to share a wee sample before you throw any more money at it, buddy. Okay, heroes do the quiz, says Steve Atkins. I like the attitude. Sheer fun is the best fun, says Jimmy Legg. Okay, let's go with some sheer fun. The quiz at the end. Yeah, I disappear back to my wee tiny self. That's better, isn't it? That's better than that, isn't it? Yes. Yes. So how would I There we go. Yeah, that's better. Good luck, everybody. 10 questions, multiple choice. Question 1. Despite wide availability, which of these 10-year-olds, according to their respective official websites, no longer exists? Which of these 10-year-olds no longer exists? A. Aberlour's 10-year-old from Pernod Ricard. B. Glenmorangie's 10-year-old from Louis Vuitton, Moët Hennessy. And C. Highland Park's 10-year-old from Edrington. So, on your market, depending on where you are, you may still see Aberlour 10 and Glenmorangie 10 and Highland Park 10. But what I'm looking for here is the fact that officially it has been discontinued and is no longer represented on the owner official website. It's no longer promoted. It is officially discontinued. We did touch on this a wee bit earlier tonight. Jimmy Legg is suggesting that we try and answer before the answers come up. If you do answer before the answers come up, that's your chimpanzee that's playing along with you. So try earnestly to play the quiz properly. But if you want to try guessing before the answers come up just by throwing in an A or a B or a C, then do that. Theoretically, the chimpanzee should still score a 3 or a 4 out of 10, right? Again, Walt James is saying B, but A, B, and C. Mark Watt is in saying B. Good to see Mark. Rob Too Slow is here. Good to welcome you, Rob, as always. One Glass Man Warner is saying B, right. Brian Cabias is saying B. Again, Walt James is saying, tried to send a super chat and Google charged me twice, but said my card declined the payment. Nice try, Google. Don't be evil, huh? James, there's no need, buddy. Thank you very much for the thought. It's wonderful to have you in participating. Fantastic. Mark Watt is also suggesting that it's C, Highland Park. Mike Molasses is saying B for sure. Jeffrey Reinmuth. Jeffrey, that looks like a new name to welcome in. I know that because I don't think I've butchered your surname before, my friend. It's nice to welcome you at the quiz at the end. Gene Kelly is saying B, and Randy Rice is saying A. Randy, I feel like that might be the first time I've welcomed you as well. Thank you for supporting me as a barfly too. Another new name, Andrei Bartinev. Andrei Bartinev. Andrea, I know I'm making a mess of your name too, buddy, but you think it's B. Let's see. I'm being nice to you tonight. Absolutely. Aberlour 10 may still be available in certain markets. It's not a core range product anymore. It's no longer promoted by Aberlour. Used to be in a tall, round, thin bottle. Glenmorangie 10 is now upgraded, as we covered earlier tonight, to a 12-year-old. And Highland Park 10 was a gap fill product. It's still out there in some markets, but the new branding, the new livery has reverted back to a 12-year-old product. But this is a freebie for everyone. Everyone gets a 1 out of 1. Nobody's gone home on a donut in tonight's quiz at the end. Question 2. In 1996, the Macallan was selling 2 million bottles globally every single year. How many does it sell today in well, it's not 2025. These figures will be probably 2023 figures. But in modern times, how many bottles are Macallan selling? A, about the same as 1996. B, about 5 or 6 times more than 1996. Or C, about half as many as 1996. These questions, don't think too hard about them. The first few questions are intended to be easy. If they looked tricky, just think about them a wee bit more. When we get to the picture question, question 5, things get a bit tricky from 6 through till 10. Easy, 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 easy. There's no banana skin here. I'm not trying to trip anyone up. It's fairly straightforward and obvious. Brian Stormont is saying Aquavitae. It's more than it deserves. It should be the answer, absolutely. It's about 5 or 6 times worse, Aquavitae. So, and that's coming from Jimmy Legg, who's a guy that once upon a time had a soft spot for the old school Macallans. Absolutely. They are selling about 10 to 12 million bottles per year. But compared to a lot of its competitors out there, that's pretty small in terms of volume. But then when you look at the average bottle price, then you work out. And it's crazy because Macallan is a very young brand, right? In terms of global recognition and things, it's, you know, late 70s, early 80s, it all kicked off famously. There's great stories to read about that. But they're really kind of over milking it now. Yeah, whatever. Nobody talks about Macallan. Question 3, unless it's a quiz at the end question, of course. What can be found atop the cork in every modern bottle of tomatin? What can be found on the cork of every modern bottle of tomatin? It's a nod to a specific A, barley, B, location, C, cask. A nod to a specific barley, a nod to a specific location, or a nod to a specific cask. What's found on top of a cork on a tomatin bottle? Springer is magic. That old ruby was a gem, says Graham Young. I will be a follower here, says Rick Johnson. The worst thing is they could do so much better, says Finally Done. He's talking about Macallan there, I think. Jeffrey's saying he can't remember. I wonder how much I've butchered Jeffrey's surname, Reinmuth. But he's going with B. Michael C's in, going for B. Good to have you, Michael C. Angus C. Can't remember. Mikey Hayes here. Good to have you, Mikey. Luna Aaron is in as well, playing along at the end. Sharmila Suze is here. Gabriel Welding, 2. Finally Done's playing along. Discordia is here for the quiz at the end. Of course, Yara's James Morgan, 2. Dan DVDW. Lachlan McKenzie. Steve Ack is still here playing along. Simone NZ. Fantastic. I think most of you have got this bizarrely wrong. Wow. Oh, wow. Didn't it used to be a hog or some animal, says Ben Whiskey with Molly. Fernando has got a pig emoji saying, it used to be a wild pig. So guessing C. Time to change. Anyone that wants to change lane now. Whiskey with Molly is going with C. Good. Steve Atkiss C. Switch C, says Lachlan McKenzie. Had to go look, says Graham Young. So we need to follow Graham Young, whatever he's answering. Everybody's scrolling up to see what Graham's answered. Okay, I can reveal now that on top of the cork of every bottle of modern tomatin, you'll find the head of a hog. It's a hog's head, specifically a nod to the 200 to 250 litre cask, a typical cask that's traditionally used in British and European warehousing. And so what we'll do is we'll often take 5 American Standard barrels and build 4 hogsheads out of them. They will often be made to order to that specific size as well, especially as a sherry hogshead in Spain and things. But I'll show you an image of it. There's a picture. This is a Doogie Crystal picture. I've stolen this from Dramface, but it's a Doogie Crystal picture of a hogshead. Question 4. Which of these distilleries makes and sells a 10-year-old as part of their core range at 50% ABV? I'm going to give you 3 distilleries. I want you just to tell me which one has a 10-year-old core range that they bottle at 50% ABV made at that distillery. A, I'm talking about Tobermory. B, I'm talking about Tomintoul. C, I'm talking about Talisker. Bit of a banana skin here. Billy Abbott's in. Good to see you, Billy. Thank you for participating in the quiz at the end tonight. David Brody's still in, playing along. Some people have slipped up already. Tobias is in a wee slip. So sorry. Shamila Suze as well. Angus C. Danny Hebbington all slipped so far. But lots and lots of people still hanging on with a 3 out of 3. Ben Demon Hunter along with Andre Lassie Hort. Oh, it's been good to see you, Lassie. Kyle Taylor, Ben Demon Hunter, Boris, David Brody. Lots and lots and lots and lots of people saying B for Tomintoul. Green and Malt is saying B as well. Michael C saying B. Mikey Hay saying B. Berkey Alicha or Alicha. Berkey is so many different pronunciations. So sorry for making a mess of that, but you're also saying B. It's nice to welcome you in the quiz at the end. Angus C is saying A and B at Lechic and Ballantrae. Tobermory, Lechic is made at Tobermory, but it's not presented at 50% ABV, my friend. Talisker is 45.8, sorry, 45.8 ABV typically. Tom and Towel do release this one. Old Ballantrae is a 10-year-old at 50% ABV. Wee bit of banana skin in there for you, but most of you absolutely caught this one and avoided it. Good stuff. Picture question right at the halfway point. We're looking at a distillery, and I'm just going to ask you where on the planet we may be looking. Are we looking at A, on a Scottish island? Are we looking at B, somewhere in Ireland? Or are we looking at C, someplace in the Scottish lowlands? Oh, past, I believe. James Morgan is saying, or maybe he's talking to Ben, Demon Hunter. Celebrating a pass already. Some confidence out there with a picture question. Are you on a Scottish island? Are you somewhere in Ireland? This is splitting the crowd a wee bit. Or are we in the Scottish lowlands? I think I see this from a different angle, says Fernando. Springbank is gorgeous. Thrilled with a 4 out of 4, says David Brody. Keep it canny, David. Just bought their first indie, says Ben Whiskey with Molly. Something peaty then. Billy Abbott is saying A, but I have no idea where. It is because of the interesting angle of this photograph, but we are in fact looking at Torravik, which is on the Isle of Skye. I think the pagoda would be the closest thing to kind of give it away in the restored courtyard and stone buildings there. But this is the opposite angle from where you would drive in. This is from behind. There's a kind of gully, a kind of, I don't know if it's a stream that's down in the gully, whatever, but somebody stood over the other side of the gully to take this picture. I thought it was quite an interesting picture. Decided to use it. This is a stock image. So if you said on a Scottish island, give yourself a point. We are having some attrition in the chat tonight. Mike Molasses, who usually does really well, is on a 3 out of 5 already. Petehead is saying, ta-da, he knew that, he got that. Petehead is on a 5. Christoph, good to see. Christoph is on a 4. Jeffrey is saying, oops, he slipped up on that one. Steve Atkins is saying, oh yeah, too slow. Rob is on a 5, as is Graham Young, who is on a 5. Rick Johnson, Graham Fraser, Dave VP. Good to see you in, Dave. Good to have you, buddy. Question 6. What can be said about Scotch malt distilleries beginning with the letters J, N, and E? So I'm thinking about Scotch malt distilleries that begin with those letters. They number A, 3, only one of each. I'm suggesting there's only one J distillery, one N distillery, one E distillery. Or B, 6. There is 2 distilleries beginning with J, 2 beginning with N, and 2 beginning with E. Or C, 9. There are 3 distilleries beginning with J, N, and E. This is just a long-winded way, a funner way of saying how many distilleries begin with the letter J, how many distilleries begin with N, how many distilleries begin with E. But it's the quiz at the end. Sure, rub it in, Roy says Mike Molasses. So sorry, buddy. You're usually much, much stronger. But you can still hold it together for a strong 8 out of 10, buddy. Go for it. It's supposed to be a bit of fun. Green and Malt is saying too many drams for this braining. That's the way I like it, James. I'd love to have you here. Who cares? The braining can wait. It's all about the enjoyment of the whiskey, right? Billy Abbott is saying B. He thinks there's 2 of each. He might be an interesting guy to follow, right? Change to B, says Gene Kelly. Discordia's going with A. Whiskey Molly Ben is going B. Steve Atkins is going nope, B. Graham Young is saying B. Can't think of any third for either of those. I know 2, so B, says Petehead. Okay, I can't fool you guys. Absolutely. We have 2 of each for those 3 letters. Let's see if I can remember them. We've got Jura and Jackton. N, we've got Nicknean and North Point. And E, we've got Edredar and Eden Mill. So we have 6 distilleries there, 2 of each. Well done, everyone. Question 7. Which of these facts is true about Tobermory single malt sales? Things are getting tricky now. I'm going to give you 3 facts. You have to spot the correct fact. A. Tobermory outsells Lechick 3-1. So that's Tobermory, their unpeated product, outselling their peated product 3-1. Or B. Lechick, the peated product, outsells Tobermory 2-1. Or is it C. Tobermory and Lechick sell about the same as each other? There's quite a few distilleries in Scotland that sell their peated product under a different brand from their unpeated, but we're specifically focused on malt tonight for this question, and we want to know, does the unpeated outsell the peated 3-1? Does the peated outsell the unpeated 2-1? Or are they about the same? Brian Cabias is saying banana skin night. There might be a bit of that, but listen, Brian, there's still a lot of people in there enjoying a 6 out of 6 so far. Graham Fraser is amongst them. Rick is asking, is this a banana skin question record? It might be. It might be. Ben Demon Hunter is saying B, Pete. Jimmy Legg is saying if they're all facts, they're all true. Just as I need to refresh my page. I'm so sorry. I'll catch this. Get the chat. Pop it out. What have I missed while I was rebooting that wee chat window there? If they're all facts, they're all true. Well, they're all potentially facts, Jimmy. Yes, of course. Everyone seems to be split by this one. I would suggest if anyone's going to follow anyone, Billy Abbott might be the guy to follow. But actually, no, now that I've seen what Billy's answered, don't follow him. I can tell you that. Surprisingly, once upon a time, Tobermory, and over its course of its history, actually has been called Lechick. The distillery name has been Lechick. And the peated product that is Lechick is so popular that it currently outsells its unpeated neighbour as an official single malt bottling 2-1. 2-1, to the tune of 140,000 bottles to 70,000 bottles of Tobermory. So that was B. That was Jimmy's complaining. I think he's saying that was my German heritage coming out, says Jimmy. The pedantry, are you suggesting? So that was a bit of a genuine banana skin there, but it's quite an interesting thing to learn, right? Lechick is outselling Tobermory 2-1. Question 8. What do Inchdairney, the lighthouse at Glenmorangie, and Chineenack all have in common? What do those 3 distilleries have in common? A specific feature of their stills. B, a specific feature of their washbacks. Or C, a specific feature of their mash tuns. Inchdairney in Fife, the lighthouse at Glenmorangie, which is obviously a micro distillery at Glenmorangie in the Highlands, or nearby neighbour Chineenack, also in the Highlands. What do they have in common? Something about their stills, something about their washbacks. or something about their mash tuns? I wonder if I'll get into trouble for this. Jimmy Legacy saying, "Eesh, this seems like a Menno question." I'm missing Menno, sorry. I think we should get him back. I'd like to participate in a Menno quiz. Brian, you're on the right theme. Rick Johnson is saying C, along with Billy Abbott, Danny Hebington. Jimmy Legg, Graham Fraser is saying something about being hammered. Mark Watt is saying C. Sugar Kitty is also saying C. Graham Young is saying likely C. A specific feature, that is a bit vague, methinks. It is Luna. It is Luna. We have been talking about the pedantry of the German. You're just on point. You're absolutely spot on, though. It is a wee bit vague. There may be things about Glenmorangie's Lighthouse, Inchtairney and Chininic that their stills have in common, but that's not what I'm after. And I'm not after anything in common about their washbacks either. Specifically, that is the 3 distilleries in Scotland that has a mashing system through a mash filter on the back of a hammer mill. It's a very, very, very different way to mash in things. So they're not using husks, they're just grinding it down to flour, getting a much higher yield from this. And it also means that these distilleries can also handle different grains as well, not just barley, but they can easily handle heritage grains and rye and other grains as well in the process. So I was after C for that one. Chininic, Inchtairney both have, and interestingly, Waterford as well has it. I know that it's not running right now, but it has a hammer mill and mash filter as well, a Mura system over there. But C I was after for question 8. Question 9, penultimate, second from last. When Headley Wright passed in 2023, how many years of family ownership was brought to an end at Springbank? I think it's the longest run that Scotch malt distilling has had under family ownership. I think I'm right. Anyway, how many years was brought to an end when he passed in 2023? A, 104 years of ownership, family ownership of Springbank. B, 186 years of family ownership of Springbank. Or C, 198 years family ownership of Springbank. If you pause for a second, there's a way to make this a 50-50 and make it easier for you. Jimmy Legg is saying, ooh, good question, because it's a Springbank question. As long as we keep to Springbank, Jimmy's happy. Time to look at Mark Watt, says Billy Abbott. Mark Watt is likely to hold his water until the very end now. Rick Johnson is going with a B. P-Ed is saying it can't be C. He's going with B. Pure guess B. Clit's B. Aquavita Springbank, 200 years old in 2028. Cal Taylor is saying 60 years for one guy. 50-50 must exclude 104, right? Dave P is saying B. Sharmila Sue's B. Angus C. B. Clit's B. Just so good, so good. I thought they were young, says Jeffrey. Okay, Springbank was founded in 1828. So there's no way it can be 198 years. So that discludes or discounts C, which means it's a 50-50 between A and B. It was 1837 when the Mitchells took over running of Springbank, which means it's 186 years. 186 years in family ownership since 1837. So if anybody answered B, you give yourself a point. Do we have any 9 out of 9s? Is anyone running for a 10 out of 10 tonight? Yes, we have. Rick Johnson is on a 9 out of 9. Brian Cabayas is on a 9 out of 9. Graham Young, fantastic. Anyone else? Ben Demon Hunter, Graham Fraser, Dave VP, fantastic, Dave, and thank you also for your recent support on Patreon as well, Dave. It's nice to have you in tonight. Personal best in the air, says Christoph. I was correct, says Mark Watt. Brilliant. Fantastic. Okay, buddy. Let's see how you get on with Ass Hat at the end. I can't remember what Ass Hat this is and just how horrible it is, but it looks like there's a lot of 9 out of 9s, so there's a good chance we'll have a 10 out of 10 to celebrate for our 10's in the vPub. Okay. Based on year of founding, this is the exact same question of last week. It's the exact same question that inspired the entire topic tonight. The only thing that's changed is that I've removed 10 years and replaced it with 15 years. Bear with me. Based on year of founding, how many new distilleries founded since the year 2000 are 15 years or older in 2025? How many of the new distilleries already have more or equal to 15 years under their belt? Is it about the same number as A, the years of operation at Lag? Is it about the same number as B, the years of operation at Glasgow? Or is it about the same number as C, the years of operation at Wolfburn? How many distilleries are 15 years old that have been founded since the year 2000? Or let's say they celebrate their 15th year in 2025. How many are they? And does that number equate to the same as the number of years that Lag has been on the go, or the number of years that Glasgow has been on the go, or the number of years that Wolfburn has been on the go? I think we've spoken about at least 2 out of 3 of those tonight. Christoph is saying, oh, good, I can't understand the first part of the question. I know it's a wee bit clumsy. It was the same as last week. We seemed to get away with it last week. So we're thinking about how many 21st century distilleries can celebrate being 15 years or older in 2025. Whatever number that is has to agree with either the years of running operation at Lag, or years of operation at Glasgow, or years of operation at Wolfburn. All over the place. We've got A's and C's. We've got a B as well. All over the place. Typical ass hattery. It's meant to be deliberately obnoxious, obtuse, difficult. That's why it's called the ass hat. You need a wee bit of luck, a wee bit of canny judgment, a wee bit of gut feeling. Driver Fish is in. First time I've welcomed you, Driver Fish. It's nice to have you here. And Gorm J. Gorm J is saying B. Driver Fish is going with C. Whiskey with Molly saying it's got to be A. Mike Molasses is saying pressing through my cognitive decline, so I pick A. Good for you, Mike. Stay strong, big guy. Ben Demon Hunter is saying, well, I'm a sucker for Wolfburns, so he's going for C. And Pete Head is changing to B. Finally done is saying, you're what, lol? B, just for giggles. It's tough, isn't it? That's the deliberate nature of the ass hat. Okay, I can maybe help you a little bit by telling you that years of operation at Lag is 6 years. Years of operation at Glasgow, of course, they've celebrated a 10-year release this year, so it's 10 years. And Wolfburn is actually 12 years old. Okay, doesn't answer it yet, but it might help you a little bit. I'm going to leave that just a second. How many distilleries founded since the year 2000 is celebrating 15 years in 2025? Or let's say 15 years or older in 2025. So it includes Glengyle and Kilchoman and Daffmill as a starter. Okay, let's put you all out of your misery. Probably losing subscribers right now. I can tell you that it is Glengyle, Kilchoman, Daffmill, Roseisle, Ailsa Bay, Avanjarek. And that's it. 6. Only 6. All of the rest of them, out of 40 plus new Scottish distilleries founded since the year 2000. Only 6 of them can claim to be 15 years or older. Who is celebrating? Tony Nelson has been quiet, or I've not picked you up tonight, buddy, but you are in, and you've been in here since the very beginning of the vPub. Tony, you're celebrating a 10 out of 10, my friend. Congratulations to you. Mikey Hay, strong on 8 out of 10. Brian Cabayas celebrating an 8 out of 10. Brilliant stuff. Fantastic, Brian. Well done. A 9 out of 10 for Whiskey with Molly. Just so close. Dave VP has managed a 10 out of 10. Graham Malt, James is saying, get on it. I don't know what that means. Are you celebrating? Andre is a 9 out of 10. Fantastic score, Andre. I hope to have you back again for a 10 in the future. Jimmy Legg is on a 9 out of 10. Fantastic, Jimmy. Well done. 9 out of 10 as well for Gene Kelly. Brilliant, Gene. Danny and Gabriel both on 8s, along with Michael C. Good to have you, Michael. One Glass Man is celebrating. Rick Johnston is celebrating a 10 out of 10 tonight as well. It's a very good score tonight. Very good score tonight, Rick. I think we might have had a wee bit of attrition there. Graham Fraser is saying a pure guess, but celebrating his regular, almost like clockwork. Silky as ever, Graham. 10 out of 10 for Graham Fraser too. Was a very dirty 10, says Graham, but he's taking it. That's fine, buddy. You know how the rules at the quiz at the end go. Well done, all the 10s, says Denny Hebington, and Gene Kelly saying well done, 10s too. Congrats all the 10s from Fernando, and Brian Cabayas is saying Aquavidi, thanks for making my day off so great. Brian, you're here making my day on so great. Listen, I think it's been great fun tonight. You can only put together vPubs like this with a lot of input from you guys as well. All your support through Patreon, all your support through the Barflies, everything like that. But even just taking the time out to go in and fill out that poll in order for me to share actual consensus rather than just my opinion. And it's nice when that can, I mean, it doesn't, I mean, there's obviously huge exceptions there. Some things that I entered that you didn't mention, some things that you mentioned that I didn't have in mind. And then we can see that despite some consensus and alignment, hey, there's lots of space for disagreement, and that's okay. That's what the pleasure of this whole thing is about. There is nothing authoritative or definitive about these lists. It's just opinion. But you know what it is? It's really good, strong whiskey geekery opinion. It's a very good guide for anyone coming into whiskey and thinking, where can I go next? I've got 40 quid, 50 quid, 60 quid to spend on a 10-year-old. Where do I go? Thank you for making it worthwhile. Thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. James Morgan has said, cheers, Roy. So when is the summer halls for you? We've got about 3 or 4 maybe. I think I need to count it. I think there's 4 more vPubs before the summer holidays, buddy. Gene Kelly saying, I may not catch another vPub before you go on holiday, so hoping it's great for you. Gene, if you're here, brilliant. And if you're not, pick up in the replay. And if not, I'll see you after the summer, my friend. Brilliant to have you. Fantastic vPub. Bravo. Sandra is saying, thank you very much. Grazie, saying grazie mille. Straight back at you, my friend. Ciao. Thank you, everybody. Aquaviti Too Slow is saying, thank you, Rob. Thank you, my friend. Jimmy Legs bought me a dram as well to say best vPub in a while. Roy may have had something to do with all the great whiskies I had or as a result of the topic. So if that's what you need to do in order to enjoy the vPub a wee bit more, I am not going to encourage it, Jimmy. But thank you, buddy. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for being here and still enjoying it after all this time. And you've sent out 10 Aquaviti gift memberships to 10 random Barflies in order to, let's give them a wee shout out. John van der Bort managed to pick up one. Thank you, John. Daniel McAvoy got one. Whiskey in the West Coast. Good to see you in, buddy. Indy and Peathead. Whiskey in the West Coast. Great YouTube channel as well. Toby Anderson is in. Wolf Burner. Marco Einwaller. Lots of people managing to pick up on Jimmy's generosity, along with Ben Stahl as well. Ben, good to see you. How are you, Ben? Still drinking Longmorn? Ken McInnes is saying he also received a gift membership from Jimmy. Thank you all so much for participating tonight. Lachlan is saying, thanks, Aquaviti, and good night, folks. Graham Fraser saying, thanks again, Roy. And Rick Johnson is saying, I think Jimmy Legg got a bonus from work this week. I think he's just enjoying himself, and so he should hanging out with such beautiful folk as you, Rick, right? Fernando saying good night. Aquavit and Dear Barflies, great topic, lots of fun. It's always a pleasure to share with you all. Cheers, Michael C saying thanks for organising the poll and sharing the results. You're welcome, Michael. It's nice to have you in participating in it. Peter Lee saying happy birthday to James McGoran, a grain of malt on Monday. Let's raise a wee glass at the dying embers of the vPub to say many happy returns to our superstar Swede, superstar Australian, sorry, but Australian living in Sweden. Let's go with that. Our superstar James McGoran. Many happy returns, my friend. I hope you have an absolute cracker. Cheers. Graham Young has bought me a dram as well to say love the vPub. Cheers. And that Springbank Heel will need its own recycled review. I think I might be able to take care of that tonight myself, Graham. But thank you very, very much. I'll raise a wee glass to say thank you all for participating. Oh, we're at the 3 hour mark. We did actually hit the 3 hour mark, unfortunately. I don't know. I don't care. Thank you for hanging out with me, regardless of how long it was. Thank you for participating in all of it. Thank you for your support. I'll raise this wee glass to remind you all that you're very dearly loved. I look forward to hanging out with you again next week. But until then, Slanchiva. Cheers.